All good? Okay. Hey guys, Tarke here, and today we are joined by everyone to talk all about Scourge and the patch notes. But before we get into that, since it's been a while, just a quick little Raiz, what have you been up to?
Nothing. I went and did walking in the mountains, and now I'm playing Lost Ark, and it's poggers. I'm playing the Russian version to anybody interested. PvP's sick, and the PvE is sick. I can't wait for the beta. Pog.
What about
Is
you?
that not out yet? I thought it already was.
Nope. It's coming out early next year, but the beta's happening like 2 weeks into the PoE League, but it's only 5 days.
Oh, really?
It's been like 10 years. Man.
Yeah, how do I get into that beta?
Everyone was like, bring up Lost Ark out.
I think everybody who buys the supporter pack gets into the beta.
Oh.
Yes.
What about you, Niggy? What have you been up to?
I'm playing New World. With Raiz as well. And then he
Oh,
left
yeah.
me,
We did do that.
and I felt sad.
I went
it's
to the
really fun.
mountains.
It's really fun. I'm actually, we just did a war just earlier before the,
I just love the way you phrased that. We
Wait,
just
what?
did a war. It was good.
Yeah. No, there's
a good
like
time.
wars all the time. We had a war and we won the defense. We were being attacked on 2 fronts and we hold both of them. It was great.
You're still
A
playing
lot
a
of-
bunch of New World, right?
Yeah,
You've been playing for a
There's a
while.
lot of potential in that game. I definitely see it like tapering out for quite a bit, and then it's gonna be like, will they have enough content coming up?
It's very PvP, right?
Yes. I mean, it's 3 factions. The objective of the game is basically to hold zones and to gain control and just be like. It's basically Game of Thrones because it's like a bunch of houses, right? Companies and then they all hold like an area. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Not that much PvP, but actually the PvP that's in there is the dungeons are really cool. Did you do any of the dungeons?
I didn't
Right.
get there. I had to go
Bro.
before, and then I just didn't get to play. I'm not gonna lie, the questing was pretty boring.
Questing is super boring.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's
The PvP was fun though, and you can PvP really early on too, which was
Yeah.
great.
So
but yeah, that's been really fun. And then I mean, PoE come out, and I was like, oh no, that is too much hype.
Mm.
Been very hyped about PoE.
the real question is though, Octavian, have you been committing any war crimes?
Not lately.
Oh.
No. Yeah.
Not in
I-
video games. Okay.
As far as what I have been doing, just some sort of scuffed league start practice, even more scuffed now that we know the whole passive tree is shifting with the whole mastery thing and all that. So, I can go through the motions and get some practice in, but some of it is going to have to be on the fly by necessity. And I've been doing a Skyrim playthrough when I'm not streaming, which has been fun because I've never actually played more than like 4 or 5 hours of Skyrim before. This is the first time I've like actually sat down to play the game for a decent amount of time.
Wait, did the remaster come out already? Is that what you're playing?
Maybe, I don't know. Skyrim has like 7,000 different releases, so I'm playing the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition.
Right,
according to
okay,
Steam.
because it's like there's a remaster that's coming out at some point which adds a whole bunch of new content, so you maybe fucked up a little bit there.
It's okay. I'll completely forget about it when Scourge starts, I'm sure.
That's fair. What about you, Ziggy? Any war crimes or Elder Scrolls?
Yeah, I threw a spear at a bear and wounded its paw and then ran it until exhaustion until it collapsed and then clobbered it over the head with a rock repeatedly until it died so that I could get its
What the
skin away.
fuck?
So I guess that might constitute. I've been playing a little bit of off stream. I've been playing some Unreal World, which is a old school roguelike. It's the world's first kind of survival game, open world sandbox game. It's sick. It's pretty good. It's a lot of like just hardcore. It's like early Iron Age Finland or something. I think it's set in.
Okay.
So it's a lot of just really like suffering life.
Oh my god, you really visualize that hardcore. I'm looking at screenshots from the game. It's just pixels.
Pretty
Well, it
much
used to just
everything
be
on
an
your
ASCII
computer
roguelike,
is.
but it has art now.
Yeah, but it's
been
like
getting updated.
It's
for
like
30
really
years.
pixels. It's very pixels.
It's good. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. On stream, I've been playing some RimWorld with the new ideology expansion. That's been really good.
I've been really wanting to play that. Is it fun?
Yeah, no, it's my favorite thing about RimWorld is like the storytelling aspect of it, the story of your colony, and ideology adds like cultures and religions and laws and stuff like that. So I've played like stoner hippie treant guarding people. I've played cannibal raiders, and I played some like transhumanist body modders that praise the machine spirit and stuff like that. I've been getting absolutely pummeled in it. I've been getting destroyed this expansion. They made it quite a bit harder. The raids are a lot harder, but that's been fun. And I've been working on the Q&A stuff like that. I tried to help Amy because she's been painting the house and just going nuts doing actual housework. So I went out one day and I was like, I'll help paint. And then within about 2 minutes, I was dusting some dust away from where I was trying to paint, and my finger caught on like a staple that was left in the ground from when it was the floor protector stuff was stapled in. And I just like tore a massive chunk of flesh out of my finger, and I'm bleeding everywhere. Like somehow I cut myself painting, but it's doing all right now. Stop bleeding.
If
it's been entertaining times.
If it makes you feel any better, I did something kind of similar yesterday. I was helping out my mum. She needed a floor being torn up, and I was tearing up the floor, and there was these two really heavy bits of wood that were like resting on a pair of like rafters in the ceiling that needed moving, and I've just unplugged my headphones. Whoops. And I was like, okay, so wait, say something real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, I saved it. So I was like, okay, Mum, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this, but when I pull this out, the beam's going to shoot up. So make sure you just like take the weight a little bit, otherwise it's going to crush my hand, okay? She's like, cool, I got you. No worries. So I pull out the thing, it crushes my hand, and she says, Jake, you're holding onto the wrong beam. And I'm like, yeah. So I then proceeded to very slowly help her with the rest of the job, as like half my hand just like turned purple. But yeah, I haven't actually been playing any video games myself. I made the very bad decision. It's been a lot of fun, but I regret it slightly. I decided that I'm gonna reinvigorate a social life, just as League Start is happening. So yeah, that was a mistake. It's been
so you
fun.
Can make friends just in time to abandon them.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm also, so there's a animal shelter that I volunteer at, and that started up again. And this is sacrilege. Don't tell anyone at GGG, but I'm actually going out instead of playing League Start. Like, so I'm fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. The servers are absolutely trash, and then I don't miss out on anything. Not to be selfish or anything.
You want them to hold back on patch notes, have shitty servers on launch. What else?
Look,
can I? Go ahead.
What?
Go on, Octavian.
I was just wondering if I could have your spot in streamer queue because I think it's a few points ahead of mine.
Oh yeah. I'll make sure they route that over.
No.
But yes. So social life aside, though. How is everyone feeling about Scourge? Raiz, what was like your initial reaction to the Scourge announcement?
The reaction, I never have any expectations when going into this league, so into any league really. So it was very positive. I really like the theme of it. I really like leagues that would increase difficulty. You've got increased rewards, you know, your ultimatums, metamorphs, that sort of stuff. And especially when it involves map clearing. But then I really started thinking, and then obviously there's the skill tree stuff, which is like the biggest highlight for me. But as far as the actual league mechanic itself, I started thinking about the reward. And I don't see how the reward kind of fits the way that I play the game, which is making like janky characters for a day or two and then fucking off. It seems like the rewards are very RNG and sort of a long-term, very RNG-oriented progression, and there's not much else to it. Hopefully there's more than that, because even other leagues that didn't have particularly interesting rewards would have rewards that enabled other league mechanics that I would enjoy more. But in this one, it's like it seems like it's just the item thing, and you don't get like more, I don't know, Legion splinters or whatever.
Well, there was, I guess you have to go through the initial system of scourging an item. Because if you scourge a map, then the map will have mods applied to it. And from what we saw of those mods, some of them were things like, you know, Nemesis monsters drop additional currency items, or enemies have a chance to drop Legion splinters or crap like that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, if you wanted a more Delirium-esque experience, you could just throw maps into your Scourge Crucible and just use it for that.
That's what
guess.
I'm hoping for. Yeah, absolutely.
That was because I whenever a new announcement comes out, I always like break down the possible flaws I see with the league, and that was the one that did stand out to me a little bit, is especially from a point of view of like when people try and engage with the mechanic while leveling. I don't know how quickly you'll get your Scourge item back, but imagine it's like, okay, you're in Act 1, you've got like a decent two link or 3 link or whatever, so you juice it up, but then you don't get the Scourge mod till the end of like Act 2, and then it's like, well, this is trash now. So then it's like, do you not get a good payout at any point while leveling? And then in
The
mapping...
Scourge modifier seems so strong, though. Like, getting +1 early on, just like, if you can get them quickly and you're just leveling, like, you might as well use it on a wide item, and it might end up being worth it if it's like a chest piece with a 4 link or whatever.
Maybe. I could see a scenario... Sorry, I'll say this quickly, then let Octavian go. I could see a scenario in maps where, like, if you're in a situation where you're kind of like that Raiz with, like, oh, I reroll often, maybe just, like, throwing it into a bunch of tabulas. Like, just, like, a generic unique like that could probably be pretty solid. But I do think the fact it's such a, like, delayed reward, I think we will see some issues with that. But, yeah.
I think there's also something to be said for the fact that, like, it's just a bunch more density, you know? Like, this is always a point you can make about almost any league mechanic, because most of them throw a ton of monsters at you, but, like, yeah, it's a ton of rare and magic monsters by the look out of it. Like, it's basically a second map that you get to jump into for no extra cost.
Seems difficult. I don't really fully understand. Like, it teleports you back to where you entered the nightmare or whatever whenever you exit it.
Yeah.
And then you have to re-clear again.
Well, I think so, because from what I understand of it, and I hopefully Twitch chat corrects me if I'm extremely wrong here, but from what I understand of it, it's less like, it's similar to Delirium in some ways, obviously, but unlike Delirium, it's not an augmented effect on top of the map you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like you're shifting into an alternate version of the map that you're doing. So, you know, you clear for 20, 30 seconds or however long in the Scourge map, and then you get warped back to where you were before, because while you were doing that, you weren't clearing the regular map. So it's not like the whole, you know, half the map ahead of you is now empty. It's you haven't done it yet. That half the map was not what you were traversing through. You were traversing through an alternate reality version of it.
But the problem is that's not how our brains work. Because it's like, let's say you're in Ledge, and then like you warp into Ledge, you get to the end of Ledge, but then you teleport back to the start of Ledge. Even though technically it wasn't Ledge that you were clearing, in your brain, you're like, dude, I'm backtracking.
While leveling, I can certainly see that being very annoying. Because, like, in the end game, you're basically just getting extra value. Like, you're running a T15 or something, you're essentially getting a T15 and a quarter or and a half, depending on how much of it you can clear. But, yeah, while leveling, where you value getting through the zone, and you don't want to have to get through the zone twice, I could see Scourge being annoying.
Ziggy, you probably know this best, because obviously, like, you had to prepare for the Q&A and stuff, but, like, do we know how long the average Scourge length is?
This exact topic was the main thing that I ended up going back and forth with Bex and Chris, because I was pretty curious, especially about like looting. So I found out that like if loot drops inside the Scourge when you're shifted, it'll be there in the regular map when you shift back in that spot that it dropped.
Okay.
So if you clear forwards and then you teleport back and then you walk forwards, your items will be there.
Yeah.
However, my thing is like, I reckon sometimes people are going to clear backwards and then items are going to drop back there and they're not going to pick them up because they're on a timer. And then they're going to have to like run backwards to areas they've already cleared in the real world to get those items.
Yeah, you can't.
So I see a little bit of awkwardness there.
Yeah. I mean, if you can imagine going into another reality and you don't know what's in there, you wouldn't know what direction you would go in. So even if you wanted to go forward, maybe another pack or something spawned to the side and you would go over there instead, right? It's not like you can really plan it.
I'm sure it's something we can strategize around to an extent.
Yeah.
But the other thing is it's expected that you'll shift a few times per zone. Some people have asked, like, what, can you just full clear the map and then go backwards? But your blood bar will be full way before then, I think, is the way it seems. So you'll have to kind of shift a few times throughout the map. And probably in juice maps, you're going to be shifting constantly, I imagine.
But doesn't it, every time you enter the nightmare, doesn't it respawn the monsters? Like, you get new monsters every time. So if you have a strong enough character, can't you, like, clear the map multiple times, essentially?
Does it respawn?
I don't know about that.
Because there's like Scourged maps that say shift randomly. Like that's one of their lines of text. So if it did, couldn't you just stay in that map forever?
Some people in chat are saying it's been confirmed by devs. Yes, they respawn.
So
apparently
there's an infinite amount of them.
Apparently, Grimro asked the devs, and they said yes to him. So if that's
why
wrong,
he was so excited.
Everyone blame Grimro.
I saw Grim was really excited about like the infinite potential of juice maps, because if you get more blood for the more juice out onto maps, then you can shift more, and there's an infinite number of monsters in there. It's just like adding an infinite size incursion to your map that you can just keep doing the more juice the map is. Sounds pretty nasty.
But you're gonna have that stacking debuff though, right? Because it's like every time you're in there, you gain 1% more damage taken. So
I'm curious as to whether the it's 1%. They said. I'm pretty sure,
and that's it.
No, it's 1% per stack.
Per stack, and yeah. But then, stacking. Is there a limit? It's just I would assume it's unlimited. It's infinite. 1%'s not that big.
I'm just curious as to whether like it carries over from each shift. So if you shift like 3 or 4 times a map, okay. So you could, if it's like by the end of that, you could have like 40, 50 stacks. I mean, you're saying that's not that much, but that's like having a full red tier shock map effect on you.
That's pretty scary.
That's
not
nasty.
That much.
50% increased damage. Okay, so you're gonna wear an Abyssus on your next build.
I mean, and also I'm guessing the Scourge monsters are gonna be like extra spooky as well, right? Like I'm expecting like Legion mob level, like screw you, bro.
I mean, some of the characters that I've seen in terms of like building defenses and whatnot, I mean, those are like very gauntlet ready, and gauntlet is a lot more damage than 50%. And it's like if you can actually allow yourself to open like clear enough mobs to open a nightmare, then clear the entire map off of the nightmare, then clear a little bit more mobs, entire map, clear a little bit more mobs, entire map quickly enough.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
If you're strong enough, that's pretty nutty. I don't know. Like it doesn't seem like the stacks go up that quickly. Like maybe 1 stack every 4 or 5 seconds.
Apparently, someone in chat says you can see it's 1 stack per 2 seconds.
Oh, it's per 2 seconds. Yeah, just gotta go back to Strand. You know, you clear a map in 30 seconds. You do the same. I mean, the thing is, we don't know how strong those monsters are, right?
There's also we don't really have an idea. Yeah, that's what I was kind of say. Like, we have no reason to assume that they're gonna go softball on these mobs. You know, like they might be Vol Legion Red Cloud of Death level of dangerous from back in Legion League start.
Yep, for sure.
We kind of got ahead of ourselves a little bit. Octavian, what was your initial like Scourge thoughts / reactions?
So the league specifically, not the
league specifically. Overall? We'll get into the bigger stuff later.
Yeah. I absolutely adore the visuals. I think from the way that Chris has talked about Beyond in the past, it seems like there's a handful of people, if not the whole company at ZiggyD, that have an axe to grind with the visuals of their Beyond demons and the fact that they were just like bandits but red. And they're kind of showing what they can do now with the concept of a demon from another realm, which is way more badass. Yeah. As far as mechanically, though, I am very scared, but also very excited to play it in hardcore, both for the danger to my gear that I'm probably going to throw into the Scourgeinator and ruin, and for the danger to myself, because I don't want to be taking 40% increased damage in every map. But I'll do it if the rewards are good enough.
What about you, Nugiyen?
Visually, same. Very, very excited for how it looks. I think that might visually be my favorite league announcement ever. Yeah, I think it just might. I don't think everything. I think it is so much that it just, to me, it just signifies PoE so much aesthetically. I don't know why. Like the tentacles and eyes and gore and I don't know, the miscreations, you know, people being like all the monsters being like torn apart by some force or whatever. I don't know. It very much reminds me of like the Metagaron, Thaumaturgy and all that. And I really like leaning into that. I don't think PoE does enough. And I think I don't know. It's like the world of PoE I want to explore. So I'm very excited about that. Let's think back to the announcement. We got the passive tree as well, right, in there? Like in the, so we're, yeah. So that was just wow. I mean, adding in the mastery system, to me just seems like it's so clever with how they're addressing having, because like what it looked like for a long time is that the passage tree was getting more and more cluttered because they were trying to enable more and more build in different parts of the tree, but you can't keep doing that because then eventually there'll be nothing but like how many nodes are you going to add? It doesn't like it's look very very nice and becomes very muddy. So I think yeah, that part really stands out to me as being something that might actually be like, honestly, it could be like an industry standard going forward for other ARPGs. I could see that if they do it right. I feel like the idea about it being like that you kind of like, it doesn't matter where you are. It's just, I think it's so clever. I really like it.
Yeah, I mean they can sort of do a softer identity to regions of the tree where like the lightning ones are up here and the fire ones are over there, but it's not as specific, you know?
I'm we can talk about it now. I was going to say that later. I'm kind of curious how it's going to be with the more niche stuff, especially like I'm very interested in what they're going to do with stuff like traps, which is very much just like this is only in this tiny part of the tree. I don't really see them spreading those kind of nodes out. So I am curious how they're going to handle the slightly more like niche archetypes, which are very much just like in one tiny area. But I do like the fact that there'll be more flexibility with building trees now. And like someone made a good suggestion earlier when they revealed the Chaos Masteries. One of them gives like +1 to Chaos Gems. That could be a really interesting dip for like a Herald of Agony build. Like builds which aren't typically Chaos builds, but they can like do little dips like that to use certain setups. That'll be interesting.
Wait, did you say only league mechanic for that? I thought you were just like reactions to the like the announcement.
I said league mechanic anyway. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, okay. No, I mean like visually it just looks really cool.
I do agree on the visuals there. I think this might just be me. I've never been that big on the. Oh, go on, sorry.
The league mechanic is instant as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's just. I mean that have they done that before?
What do you mean?
What specifically?
Like lead mechanics not have, because it's like normally when you shift, because it's like, you know, like the shifting into another reality is like, I mean, it is kind of funny that it's coming out right after Diablo 2, if you think about it.
Oh, like that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's like we can do this as well. I think that's really, I don't know. I feel like that might have been some of that in there, but I don't know. It's just like we always wait for some league mechanic, right? Like there's always some delay. So
there's still delay because you have to like juice it up, you know, before you can enter. You have to kill a bunch of mobs and then you can shift to the nightmare.
Right. But it's like on your terms. You're just normally clearing the map and then boom.
Yeah, I wonder if like the way to play it is always going to be like enter the nightmare anytime you have an opportunity. Or if you're going to maybe look for like strategic spots in the map where you can clear the most mobs in like the shortest amount of time to decrease the amount of stacks. Like I'm sure there's going to be a lot more strategic than just like pressing the button whenever.
Yeah. I mean, I think you'll have people. Go ahead, Ziggy.
I was going to say, if they respawn every time, that's the first time I've heard about that. That means that there's a bit less strategy to it because you can just you can shift wherever and whenever, and there's always going to be monsters there. You don't have to think like, I'm going to shift in like different spots around the map.
It's way worse than that. I just realized because if the mobs respawn, then you get to the most efficient thing would be to get to the location in the map where you can clear the most in the shortest amount of time. So like, I don't know,
and then go back.
And you run back to get to that spot, spawn it, clear, and then you go clear,
so
run back, spawn it, clear. Like
since we're back on this topic, I wanted to go look it up. I pulled up the Scourge launch page or whatever, pathofexile.com/Scourge. Wanted to make sure I wasn't misremembering, but there is a Scourge Maze of the Minotaur map there, which has randomly shift into and out of Nightmare. Can't you just stay in that map forever?
Maybe those are
continually randomly shifting into Nightmare and killing monsters and then waiting and then doing it again. And I don't know if that would be more efficient than running maps.
If the debuff stacks, right? Eventually you're gonna take.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, eventually you have like 500 stacks of the debuff and you die. Especially because that one also says take 6,000 fire damage when you shift.
Isn't the problem though that like you need the blood. So even if you're shifting, you're just going to instantly leave because you haven't got any blood, right?
Oh yeah.
Also, you
Yeah,
don't think it
that's-
randomly shifts without the blood?
I don't know, but like,
Still need fuel, probably.
I don't know. We'd have to wait. We'd have to see how that kind of works.
No,
but
I mean that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Blood.
One thing which worries me a lot about this whole instant shifting thing, because I do think it's cool, but it's kind of, I could also see the scenario of like instant shift die. Because it's kind of
I
like,
asked about that specifically. I was like, this seems like a good way for us to get ambushed and died if you just
Yeah.
happen to shift in the middle of a pack. Because I asked how they designed it, and it's basically like an overlay. Like the monsters are all there, and then when you shift, you like it
just take a
changes
chance.
to that overlay. But they actually thought of that, so they added like an AOE stun and knockback when you shift in.
Oh,
So if you're in the middle of a pack, it blasts all the mobs away from you.
I mean, that's
I guess
still
that should help.
good, but
Probably still die.
yeah, like from a softcore point of view, it's kind of fine, but from a hardcore point of view, it's kind of like you even if you stun everything, you just shift into a terrible position. Like if you imagine just shifting into the dirtiest pack of mobs, and it's kind of like, I mean, I've got like a second, but it's like, ooh.
So are we going with like Terminator mechanics here as well, where there's a little like bubble and a seared out hole around you? Or what kind of what kind of like
what I think would probably, because we've had a few issues. We had this little bit of synthesis and whatever. I think what could have maybe been cool is like if you shift and it's like, yeah, you kind of like a bubble, like you have a safe thing. It's like, okay, you get to just quickly scan the area and then you leave and you go into the thing. I think just like even if you're stunning all the mobs, there's going to be situations where like you'll just shift in and then it's like,
Then you have all the Zoomers complaining. Every time I shift in, I have to wait 3 seconds.
Well, no, but they
mobs.
can just no. You just have like a safe space that you just walk out of.
Oh, you could walk out of it.
Yeah, so it's like you shift, and it's like, okay, you've got a little ring around you, and then it's like, okay, I leave the ring, you know. It's kind of like the whole, because like that was the thing that was really sick about like Ultimatum, was you had that like Ultimatum freeze. So it's like, okay, think, catch my breath. What are we doing? Okay, cool. I think, like, again, I don't know. I haven't done any testing, so this is purely speculation. But I do think we might have a scenario where it's people, especially because it's one of those things of, I think because it's a delayed reward league, I think people are less likely to put up with things they consider bullshit. It's like, if you do it and you immediately drop like 5 exalts, you're like, yeah, let's go. Whereas if it's like, if you do it and then you die to something and you still get 5 exalts, but it's like 5 maps from now, then you're like, oh, this is a shit league. I'm never doing this again. That's kind of like my main concern. I think the league looks very interesting, but it's just like, when I think about every single league we've had with delayed rewards, people just really haven't liked those. And that's my main concern with this league, is people do not like delayed reward mechanics.
I mean, they don't like it until they learn that it's valuable, and then they will like it. I think it's. I hope they don't lean into the crowd that's like, reward me now or I will shit on your product kind of crowd. You know,
What you mean, the Path of Exile playbase?
I was about to say.
Let's not be that extreme.
No,
With the
I don't
exception
think
of us.
that's
I agree
the
about
crowd
it.
that's
With the exception of us.
but it's just like there's like a level to how much you want to lean into that to where, oh, we have to reward you immediately. Like if it's a really cool mechanic and it gives you, I don't know, I mean, you kill monsters, they have normal drops as well. If it's equivalent to just playing your map, I mean, if there's no delay and you're just playing along, you're just getting normal rewards plus an addition, and it looks cool, why can't that be enough? And especially if people figure out how to like really like get juice out of it.
Do you get 2 counts of delirium monsters?
Ooh.
If you're doing, because
That'd be spicy.
Yeah, the delirium monsters will spawn like alongside packs. Baron influence spawns alongside packs too. If you did a delirium or Baron influenced map, you'd get so many extra monsters.
I would imagine it doesn't interact. I mean, if Delirium interacts with it, that would be so crazy.
I don't know. Who's to say? Maybe delirium pauses while you're in the alternate reality. Maybe all the mechanics pause. Maybe you're in the middle of a blight and you go to the alternate reality and Kasha has to stop singing. We can shut her up by going to Demon World.
Oh, maybe they don't pause and we can take our time while the other thing spawns and clear.
Question: can you randomly shift while doing another league mechanic? Because that could be weird. Like you're mid blight and the game's like shift, bitch, boom, and you're like, oh no.
If it's one of the maps that randomly shifts you, I don't see why not. There's also maps that shift you when you kill unique or rare monsters, and blights and legions have plenty of those. Okay, so the Legion rares while they're frozen are still rare monsters. So you'll be trying to clear a Legion and like unlock the Legion, and you'll kill a rare monster to unlock it and go to Demon World.
Yeah, I mean it's the same for Betrayal, right? You have like 50 stacks and Betrayal ambushes you, and you're like, what up? That's not good.
Can you get ambushed in the alternate reality?
I would imagine so.
Betrayal?
I mean, sure.
So that opens up another question. Can you start League mechanics in the alternate reality? Are there strongbox in Weird Wacky Rayclast? Are there blights in Weird Wacky Rayclast? That's hard to say. I wanted to term the phrase, but it's very hard to say. I'm going to stop.
It's way too hard.
Apparently, you can't start new mechanics when you're in Scourge, but ongoing ones will continue.
Okay. So Delirium is an ongoing mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grimmer did a video and he asked a few questions about this sort of stuff since he's super focused on the juicing aspect of it. Yeah. But overall, he was super excited about the juicing potential of this. Like he was going nuts in his video. It was entertaining to watch. But random thought: this league is the first league that has a built-in logout macro. If you're fighting Scourge monsters and they're scary, you can just press the league mechanic hotkey and log out of the league mechanic at least.
It's kind of like Delirium too.
What if what you're logging into or out of becomes worse?
Well, it goes back to where you were. So as long as you didn't leave a pack around you when you shifted. Although I guess sometimes that might happen when it's like triggering randomly. Or...
Oh, I was thinking like if you're just normally mapping as well. Like you could log out of that.
Chat's right. They're finally embracing it. Built-in logout macro, built-in flask macro belt, you know?
Yeah. So good.
Didn't Chris say that that's going to be like as rare as a headhunter?
I mean, it better be. The power is going to be so absurd.
Straight up headhunter competition, which is awesome.
Do you want to hear the most wasteful use of that belt? So that's the belt we're talking about is the one which has it so your flasks are always active. If you use explosive concoction, you can have your flask always active and disabled, but still pull charges from the flask.
Yeah, I heard about that. Ooh. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that is good. It's just, it makes like, they've buffed explosive concoction, but it's not going to be like, you're not going to use this like a million exalt belt to make explosive concoction good. Like, let's be real.
What? Why not?
What?
I saw some I saw good explosive concoction builds.
The new explosive
they were like starting looking pretty good. Why not?
Okay.
I've seen some good ones too, and the new one looks great.
Like
it looks very strong.
Overlapping and like I don't know. There's so much scaling in that, and if they make the skill better, I don't know. Didn't they?
They've said they've sped up the projectile speed. I think they buffed the base crit, and I want to say something about the overlapping. It could be good. It could be good.
What was where were we before we got derailed?
Belt.
Like 3 times.
Octavian. They also buffed the ignite. Yes. Yes.
Oh.
I think we were doing the rounds on people's thoughts on the Scourge reveal.
To which, Ziggy, obviously you've been sat on it the longest. What was your Scourge thoughts?
Oh, I think we covered quite a bit of it, but I agree. It looks super sick, especially the demon designs look really cool. In the trailer, like a few seconds in, there's this big chungus dude where the bottom half of his body rotates first and then the top half rotates around and he's like, and I'm like, yes, that's very cool. And
there's actual bosses.
Cool yeah, lots of bosses.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what I assume that big boy was probably one of the bosses. And
yeah, because they made Ultimatum look like there's
bosses in there?
Probably because they made Ultimatum look like there were bosses in it, but there weren't. But then, there was technically, but like during the actual Ultimatum, but I think it was on the map or somewhere I saw like has a boss or whatever, or boss does X. So I would imagine if they're using the word boss, they don't just mean like a rare mob. So the things that they were showing as the big boys with the nasty tentacles are actual like encounters.
Also, wasn't there a map mod that said Scourge boss?
Area contains an additional Scourge boss.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it sounds like Delirium, where they can be random or they can be guaranteed by in certain cases. But yeah, Chris did confirm as boss fights in addition to that map saying as such. So yeah, sounds like there's going to be some boss fighting action, which I'm always a big fan of. I like to see some cool boss fights in the league mechanics. I'm always a bit disappointed when there's not, even when they're like, GGG's like, oh, it makes sense to have some things not have bosses. I'm like, I prefer them to always have bosses. Bosses are cool, man. They're like the pinnacle of action RPG content, a good boss,
And
I think.
They did so great with Expedition, I think. That's like, that was my favorite part by far. People were like really combing over the logbooks and stuff. To me, the bosses were the highlight, really.
I love dying to Uhtred.
Hey, they do it like 2 times now, 3?
Yeah, back to back.
Nice.
It's like, new boss, let's go. I'm dead. Let's go again.
I'm a little less excited conceptually for this league than Expedition. I think Expedition tickled me a bit more because I like the little bit more complicated leagues that have a little bit more like strategy planning stuff to them. Like maybe there's a bit of strategy here that for us to uncover, but it seems like a really straightforward league, which I think is going to be some people's like super cup of tea. I think it's going to be really popular for that because some of the most popular leagues we've had, let's be honest, mechanics are the most simple, straightforward, just kill shit ones. And this seems like a really good, solid kill shit league. So I think it's going to be a big win in that regard. On the reward front, though, I think some people are just never going to be excited about the corrupting because either they just they're not the way they like to approach gearing is to like take risks like that. And even when it's good, even if it is really good, which it looks like it's probably going to be, and for a lot of people, we're going to be scourging every single piece of gear we own at some point.
But
I think some people will just never be excited.
Is it a risk? Like, there's no way that it actually corrupts
it can brick your build in the sense of there's some mods like cannot deal physical damage or cannot corrupt.
Yeah, but it never modifies the actual item that you already had pre-existing. It's not like
let's say you have a deck stacking bow for cold and then you cannot deal cold damage.
That's of course.
Pretty much a brick.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, of course.
It
can't like vulnerable it. Like it can't change
it will still be the same thing. It just becomes corrupted and it will get this modifier on it.
It's a little bit more of a like forgiving break than a vol because you can re-scourge it again. I think 2 more times, maximum of 3.
Yeah,
but you could get unlucky and roll a build killing mod all 3 times, and then that's a total brick.
Yeah, and even in many cases, probably that's not going to happen. But what will happen is like the first one you get is irrelevant, so you re-roll it, and then the second one is like irrelevant, and then you re-roll it, and then the third one is a brick.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that's the one thing. Like, I can definitely see potential with it when it comes to cases like, as I said, I was like buy a bunch of tabulars or whatever. But it does suck a little bit in the sense that also you can't be like charging up an item you're currently using. So it's very much a case of you kind of need 2 of everything. So that makes it a little bit more like just from the get-go, it makes it kind of a sort of like a.
Yeah, I specifically asked about that, Chris, because design-wise, it seems weird to have like a league mechanic that you're supposed to be like really encouraged to use, but then you have to take off your piece of gear that you're wearing and then leave it off for like 10 to 20 maps for that if you want to make it tier 3. That's what the number Chris roughly gave us. So you have to have like a shittier piece of backup gear, or you have to be doing this on a secondary item that is not your main item you're excited about. So it misses that like temple moment of you corrupting your chest that you're wearing thing.
Damn. It really, that terrible, to me, that's one of the worst feelings in the game. Like when I find a harvest, but I don't have a base, it's early on in the league, and you're like scrambling to use the crafts. And so you end up spending like 30 minutes looking for an item to then like use it, and it ends up with nothing. Like it's this, but on an actual item that needs to be functional prior.
But on the plus side, you could just like spam it into maps, like until you got a good item. Like that is the one good thing about it is like even if you don't care about scourging items, you can be like, okay, fine, I'm just gonna scourge random maps and just get some extra.
Well, the map slot is separate, so there's never an opportunity. There's never a moment where you're like doing a map or an item.
Right. Okay.
There's 3 potential slots, 2 item slots. You can unlock a second one, and then a map slot that's separate. So you can be scourging maps. And there's no net loss to scourging multiple items either. So you'll always want to have a map and item cooking in there, probably.
I think with harvest, I think when there's only a small chance that a harvest spawns, you will feel it less with this because you can just ignore it. Because next map you'll have it again. You will always have the opportunity. It's not like you have to use it now, like the item, because the opportunity is always there. I think what really feels bad is when you go into a harvest and you finally find it after 12 maps and you don't have anything. Because now you feel like you have to use it, because when is it going to show itself again? So I don't think it's going to be as bad.
But that depends on the reward tiers. Like, we don't really know how many maps does the tier 3 take? Like 20, 40? If you're not using that and you don't have the item, and then you eventually get the item, and now you're like, to even see if this item is going to be usable, now I have to run like 30, 40 maps to get the tier 3 mod, which is the only useful one for me or whatever. Like, they really have to nail the like how often you get the bad bricky mods, but that really depends on the build, and how often you get the like actual useful nice stuff. Because again, you're disabling the item. It's not even a matter of like you're taking it off. So it's not something that you can actively upgrade. It's not just like an exalted orb that you throw onto an item if you find one.
But what about like stuff like uniques and such? You know, things that might not have a use before, but we might find some good mods that we start fishing, right? So it'll be less of a we're trying to make something, you know, better, but we convert something from something kind of like trash to
I hope so, yeah.
good.
I definitely think it will have some use from that. I do very much foresee a scenario of like, okay, you run 20 maps or whatever it turns out to be, and then it's like, okay, I just ran 20 maps to get a shit result, which with the amount we play doesn't really matter because we play enough. But in the scenario of someone who can only maybe do 20 maps that night, then it's kind of like, okay, you spent all night to brick your item. Go again tomorrow, champ. You know, that's a bit like...
Dude, 20 items is like level 1 to level 70 for me, you know? That's a lot of maps. I don't know. That's like at least a single reroll. That's a big deal.
I think the second item slot helps quite a bit with this. That was a pretty smart ad, because you can have one long-term project cooking and then have shorter-term projects cooking where you're just putting tier 2 or tier 1 on them. And I think there's going to be... They seem like they're going to be strong enough that if you don't have like some big finished item to do, or you've already got one cooking, you'll be able to throw in those like life double res items and potentially get results that make that item go from like a 1 alch item into like a 20 chaos item or something.
You combine the power of ROG with the power of Scourge, and you print out life
ROG items will be
speed
great
boots
for
and
this.
throw them into Scourge.
What because the skill tree is shared, the Scourge skill tree.
Yeah.
What about the actual item? Is it like Prophecy, where if you die on your character, your shit's gone as well?
Ooh.
Did they clarify?
I think
per character.
I honestly think that would be fair. Maybe that isn't what people want to hear, but I honestly think that would be fair. Like it's in a way an item you're holding, even if you're just talking in universe. The logic of it, you put a big old metal thing in your chest, and then I guess you stick the item in there somehow.
I think they kind of have to do that.
Most compelling reason, but
I think they probably also have to do that. Maybe there's like item level restrictions that they can do, but like, what would prevent somebody to run like acts and whatnot?
Well, like the ones we've seen did have slay, 30,000 or however many monsters above eye level 65 is what it said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but Quarry is above that, I think, and low tier maps as well. So I'd be curious whether there's any benefit to doing the higher tier content outside of the normal benefits, which maybe are just enough. You know, like. You want to be running T15 and 16 maps. They're just strictly more rewarding from all the other league mechanics.
Yeah, but if this league mechanic...
Tier 1, and then you get more juice for higher tier maps, that would be perfect, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Little thing, since we're in a lull in the conversation, and I didn't find a place for this earlier. There's a new map mod that got shown that I didn't notice until just now. Players cannot inflict exposure. Which is even more of a nerf to LE Equilibrium.
That's probably the new LE Equilibrium, no?
But players cannot inflict exposure?
Well, yeah.
But as opposed to maps have LE Equilibrium?
Yeah.
Or players in maps have LE Equilibrium? Yeah, that makes sense. That's less punishing, isn't it?
Well, no, it's more punishing if you're an LA. If you're
if you're LA Equilibrium, if you're using it, it's more punishing. If you weren't using LA Equilibrium, it's a lot less punishing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just an extra mod.
So since does anyone have anything else they want to say on Scourge, or talk about the passive mastery stuff?
Passive mastery sounds good.
Passive skill tree sounds good. for the Scourge. I guess
Sounds
we didn't
good,
mention
yeah.
that, but that's actually a
Oh,
thing.
No,
right.
yes, I
Yeah.
guess that's true. I think one thing which is really good about that is it's a great way of keeping people who usually struggle with staying invested into a league. Like, it's just a reason to keep playing every day. And that could be, like, I don't know, Raiz, as someone who's, like, constantly re-rolling, do you think that you would still feel like, yeah, I'm still progressing because I'm seeing my, like, you know, Scourge shit go up,
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
How much
sure.
have we seen of the Scourge stuff? Don't recall.
Of the passive tree, you mean? Or-
Yeah.
I think we've only seen like two things. Like we saw you can Scourge uniques as one of the options, and you can Scourge jewelry items faster or something
I got
like
a press thing.
Right.
I got a press thing that has quite a few on, then there was a few more in the video,
Oh,
so I kind
cool.
of have a bit of a collated list of them. So there is chance to add additional socket, chance to add additional link, the faster scourging for each different item base, a chance to add another explicit modifier and change unique like corrupt scourge uniques. Add an extra scourging socket so you can put another item in. Yeah, I like the additional link one.
Wait,
And you can
so just
What's
like
that?
how does that work? The link.
well, you
like,
obviously have to have a socket there already, but so if you've got like a 5-link 6 socket, you're like early end game starter item, you chuck it in there to scourge it up because you know, whatever reason, and then it has a chance of spitting out a 6-link for you,
Can
which
this
is
be
pretty
used
cool.
on corrupted items? Like, can you scourge up corrupted items?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can 5-link a bunch of things, corrupt it, hit what you want, and then take the gamble. You don't need to 6. There's like
that's a good point.
there to like 6-link your corrupted items.
Maybe you can even get multiple of the increased chance, because I'm pretty sure that you can get multiple of the increased amount of slots that you have.
Well, there was 5 levels of most of these, I think.
Yeah, a few of them only have one level. So.
If I find the picture, I might be able to find the exact percentage on that.
This does somewhat address my previous concern about people just blasting through white maps, though, because it says the Crucible gains XP, and presumably that scales with the level of the Scourge monsters you're killing. So if you want to unlock your Crucible passive tree, that's an incentive to do higher level content.
That's true.
Because you will presumably get more XP to unlock everything in your Crucible passive tree faster.
Yeah.
Chad is actually being very smart right now. They mentioned that you don't need a 5-link. You can just do 2 and 4, 3 and 3.
Yeah, I wonder if it does say
So you don't like you actually just
add
need
a link between 2 unlinked sockets. So you're right, a double 3-link would be turned into a 6-link.
It's super easy. Oh my god!
And it's 10% chance at
what's
max
the
level.
chance?
10% at max level.
So Essence is on the map device, and you can use the Geomancy Watchstone, and you can just farm Greed Essences, throw them on 6 sockets, and then 3 and 3 link them, and print 6 links with a decent life roll, I guess.
Yes, I'm sure that's happening. The same way all of us are.
Oh, you get Divine Orbs.
Wait, how many?
Constantly
you have 3 tries, right?
Yeah, you get 3 attempts, so it's 3 times 10%.
So like you hit a good corruption, now you have 3 attempts. That's pretty good odds. Just saying.
It has to be like super rare. Like you have a chance, but the chance is like 0.001%. Like
no, it's literally 10%.
No, it's not. It's literally 10%.
Yeah, Ziggy just read it off the press material.
10%?
It's not.
It's 10%.
No.
It's 2% per level, and there's 5 levels.
10% odds of getting a 6-link is way better than your usual odds.
Don't give me hope. I didn't 6-link a single item this league. Like 8,000 fusing, not a single item. Not one 6-link this entire league.
This is how I'm going to 6-link things this league, because I hate fusing as well, so it's the worst.
Don't give me hope. No.
I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is that, like, say you were doing this on, like, random uniques, if you did get a really good, like, tier 3 Scourge and it didn't 6-link, you do have the new tainted fusing orbs as an option.
True.
If you hit, like, the GG Scourge on the unique, and you're like, fuck it, let's go for it anyway.
I wish we didn't know the value. Now I'm going to be even more pissed off every time I don't hit it. Oh my god.
Just think of it as, instead of thinking of it as 10% to succeed, think of it as 90% to fail, and then you'll feel a lot better when you fail.
I'll just think about it as 10% more is more than 0%.
Yeah.
So that's enough for me, I guess.
The math champs in chat are saying it's 27% if you get 3 tries. There's
Repeating,
27% chance to get the 6-link. That's repeating, I guess.
That's good odds.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder how they're gonna balance that. Like, obviously, it's like unlocking the full Masteries is gonna be something which not many people are gonna unlock. But what would we think would be like a fair amount of time for someone to like, if you were balancing it, like, what would you think? Like, okay, now you've unlocked everything on the Scourge passive tree.
Chris was saying, I asked Chris about this, and he said it seems likely that most people probably aren't going to unlock the entire tree, so doing the whole thing would probably take a long time. But it would probably be the case where you're like, oh, I don't really care about that one. I don't know. It's nebulous, isn't it? Like, I don't know.
I know, right? Because like Chris has even been like, when he talks about most people, he will invoke the most people don't even get past Hillock.
True.
Right? So it's like high 90s.
Ziggy,
someone who plays for 3 months is probably going to get it, I imagine. But
did they tell you? Did they tell you in the press materials or in the Q&A, if I might have missed it, whether it's possible to respec this tree?
I asked about that because I initially had a stupid idea, and I was like, oh, you might want to turn that one off. The one that I was thinking of was like add an explicit modifier. I'm like, what if you want to later exalt it? And then I'll wait. And then I was like, oh, wait, they're corrupted. You can't do that anyway. So I asked about that anyway. And it seems like all of them are just positives. So they said that there's not currently a way to respec them, but if it comes up that there's some reason why you might want to for something.
Well, they're all positives, sure, but some positives
better than
might be a
others.
positive you care about
positive.
more than another. Like, there's opportunity cost, even if there's not a literal downside.
That was
Yeah,
that was one of the first things I said when I saw it. Was I can see a scenario where someone's like just playing the game, doesn't like pay attention to like a random Reddit or Twitch or YouTube guide, and then a week in is like, I've made a terrible mistake, and then at that point they feel so far behind.
Grind more.
Like you've made build guides where people ask you which minor Pantheon power is the correct choice, correct? Like that is pretty much the smallest grain of minutia in a build, though it is buffed next league. So people care about optimizing these.
But it's not limited, right? Like, you don't have a limited number of points you can spend, so you need to reach.
True, but it's going to get like, I imagine it's going to be harder to get the more XP you have, the longer it is till the next point. So it's like
it doesn't matter if I can get one more point if it takes me 2 level 100 characters.
Exactly. So like if theoretically, like, poor fucking, I know, let's pick someone from chat. Kurt 52 completely dicks his thing. He takes the worst passive every single time, and then he tunes into his good old favorite streamer, Mr. Raiz QT, and is like, yo, Raiz, your stuff's lit. And he's like, yeah, you got this, Kurt? Kurt's like, no. Oh shit, it's gonna take me like 8 days to unlock my next passive point. Oh.
Like, even if you look at Maven, I mean, all of the Maven stuff is positive, but like if you didn't take Harbinger and Valdo when Maven came out, it's like, you really suck, you know?
I mean, I experienced that myself when the whole Atlas first came out, when I was like, oh, I've bricked my Atlas. Like, even though the Atlas was purely a positive thing, when I saw that I wasn't doing optimally, I felt really bad. So
we love you, Kurt 52.
Sorry, Kurt. You're a good fella, I'm sure.
I already banned him for asking questions. Somebody suggested that I would have banned him. I would have never banned somebody asking questions. Unless they did it twice, then I would have.
But, so to get onto it, the actual passive masteries is kind of a big deal. I think that's one of the things which is really cool about this league is... So the Scourge definitely rewards people like to go crazy on the min-maxing, but even if you're someone who, you know, never reaches maps, you're constantly re-rolling, the passive tree stuff alone should be enough of a like incentive to play this league, because that is such a massive like fundamental change to PvE.
Yeah.
It's massive and fundamental because it seems to fuck over cluster jewels, where if you want to play a brand build, you don't have to play it with a cluster jewel every time, and I love that. Fuck yeah. The more of this, the better, honestly. I love cluster jewels. I think they're a great addition to the game, but I much prefer the mastery system.
I mean, I love them too, and I hate crafting them. So anything that I don't have to chase harvest or alt spam for is great.
Yeah. Like, if you could fracture cluster jewels, then that would be nice. Like, just fracture one mod, so then you can keep crafting it, but the one thing you really need, just keep it. I mean, it's SSF problems, but still. I mean, that's kind of what the mastery system is. But even the stuff that you said earlier, Tarke, it's kind of tricky, because, like, that's what people said, right? People saw the Chaos Mastery, and they're like, this is free +1 for Herald of Agony. It's like, no, Herald of Agony doesn't pick up chaos damage nodes. Like,
yeah, you have to spend maybe like 5 or 6 skill points to get it or something.
Yeah, and it's especially for that build, it's even worse because you don't even travel near any of them anyway. So it's like, unless you maybe pick up Charisma, but really, I think the only way to play Herald of Agony now is to use the chess piece for Heralds that limits the mana cost of it. They did improve that quite a lot, though, with this league, with the mana changes.
I think the reservation changes are great. I think they're...
I'm really... sorry, it was about that mana reservation thing. I'm really curious to see how many nodes we're going to have to take realistically to like fit an extra aura into our builds. Because it seems like that's what they're trying to promote, is like the normal builds getting maybe like an extra 50% aura. Is that like 5 skill points, 20 skill points? Like, what do we think that should probably end up being?
I think if you're also going to wrap in gearing and use them together with one another, I don't think it should take you more than a cluster, maybe 2, depends on where you are in the tree. Because you can use things like the Essence of Loathing, I think it is, that gives 4 or 5% reduced reserved currently on a helmet, which presumably will jump to like 10% reservation efficiency. You can go with a Helm enchant, you can go with a Hunter or Shaper Shield if that fits into your build.
Amulets.
There's a surprisingly decent number of options out there for handling just that little bit of reservation that you need.
I think it's a definitive improvement for like everybody, and they're taking care of the like grouping players too. They're adding a bunch of different stuff, so the links are kind of interesting. I don't know, people trying to fit them into like minion stuff. I've seen some interesting shit, but
I was streaming yesterday when they revealed the new link, destructive link or whatever it's called, that gives you the crit chances shared between the players. And as I pulled it up on stream on the Twitter, and the first 7 comments in my chat were like, "Ooh, I can use that with Reaper, or I can use that with SRS or something." No one said anything about party play. No one, not a fucking word.
Yeah, good luck using it with SRS. Every time it expires, you're dead. So it's like...
That's probably not a good idea, yes. But like, it was a moment of clarity for me when I realized that, nobody plays in parties, do they?
Well, I was actually really looking forward to asking Ziggy about the new Luke skills as someone who does regularly play in parties. Are you and Amy excited to link up?
Yeah, we're probably going to mess with that. The biggest concern is the fact they drain mana, and it's like 15 mana per second or something. It's actually a pretty big cost for a lot of builds that aren't specifically built for it. So
it might be higher too.
Concern. Yeah. That's my biggest concern. I like it quite a bit because, yes, we do league start as a duo most of the time, so the link skill stuff is really cool. And they seem powerful, but like more balanced than aura and curse stacking. Like GG is able to make these and be like, give a very powerful effect. Like, oh, you can literally just give your block cap to your ally, and they also get life gain on block. Like, that's really good. But yeah, I imagine like a gladiator would have a hard time sustaining that mana. So I feel like, I don't know why they need that mana per second thing on top of the like 8-second duration. If you're not getting duration scaling, that might be really annoying to recast it every 8 seconds. I feel like it should just be permanent. Why is it a duration?
And it's per player too. So if you have like 4 players and you all want to link up, then it's like the lightning bolt meme, but instead you're just like linking everybody.
link. Yeah. I feel like they wanted to make them as active as possible, but they already are by the nature of you having to stay close to your ally.
Yeah.
So I really like conceptually these skills, but I already have like off the top of my head 3 problems, which is just too many problems to have before even playing a skill. It's like the mana, the line of sight blocking. If you're playing in cells and they go around a corner for a few seconds and then they go into the next room and then and then it breaks the link, that's annoying shit. And then like the duration as well. It's like,
oh my god, I would love this on hardcore where you can, because like I wonder how the targeting ends up being, but as we've discovered through Karn recently, targeting in PoE can have different odd priorities. So imagine if like somebody's trying to link you and you cast an SRS when that happens, and it links to the SRS and just pop.
I can't wait
just fuck people over on purpose. It's like, oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. I just happen to have a 1-linked SRS in my freaking lacerate build.
There's a lot of trolling potential here. The new crit one, you can have like a 0% crit character and then use it on your random party members to give them 0 crit if they're a crit build. They're like playing cast on crit, you just link them and disable their build.
Wait, what about public games? Can't you just like enter games and kill people? I don't know. Like,
Well, you can't kill someone because the way that it works is when you link to someone, you put your life in their hands, but
Yeah.
it's not vice versa.
But
So
you
if
could,
if I link to Tarke and then Tarke goes and steps in front of a bus, I would also die. But if I stepped in front of said bus, he would not.
Yeah.
Right.
I think another thing worth like mentioning with that whole thing is so a few people in the chat have said they've also apparently they're not instant, which makes the whole keeping within if that's true, keeping within range particularly annoying. Because it can be like, okay, Octavian, stop moving. I need to link with you. No, Octavian, you walked around the corner and I was trying to link. Stop moving, Octavian. I'm trying to give you block chance. Like, that could get really annoying really quickly.
I'm trying to give you block chains. That's how it would sound every time with Turkey. I'm trying to give you block chains. Stop moving, Turkey.
I feel like, they made skills here that could have been really good for party play, but I think they pitched them too much at a dedicated support role, because a dedicated support character that isn't killing stuff is maybe okay with recasting them probably they have duration scaling every 10, 15 seconds or something like that, and having the time to do that. But I want this to be something that people who play in parties that aren't dedicated support characters can do to each other as well. So like maybe the mana cost is reasonable as a offset for the fact that they're very powerful, but the recasting every 8 seconds for someone who doesn't have duration is too much. Not to mention it's going to be breaking sometimes from you guys.
Like someone drops an item, so they run back for it, and you broke the link. Cheers, mate.
It does have like a 4-second buffer for that, though.
I mean, if you're in a party with someone
a little bit,
if you're in a party with somebody with Headhunter and they steal a Shroud Walker, then they're just going to be jumping out of your range all the time involuntarily.
Yeah, but again, it does. Even if you go out of range, it stays linked for 4 seconds.
Oh, okay. No, this is the ultimate thing. What you need to do, Ziggy and Amy, one of you needs to be playing like a Lightning Warp build, and the other one needs to be playing Flick Strike. And you're going to try and stay links to each other.
Challenge mode.
Yeah.
Nice.
I do really like, though, that they're taking these powerful defensive and offensive buffs and sort of making another like place in the game for them, another niche for them, because that eventually, if they want to keep buffing the link skills, they can do that through, passive points or uniques or things like that, or just straight up buffs to the gems themselves without messing with a underlying core of Path of Exile, which is auras, like every build is going to use something like Hatred or Grace or Determination or the Heralds or Reservation in some way, pretty much. And not literally every, but almost every. Whereas most builds won't use links, so they can, they can go hog wild with links. They can do all sorts of weird stuff, buffing and nerfing, whatever they need to do, and it's only going to affect a select few minion builds and party play. It's not going to ripple out to the rest of the game.
Amy suggested using the link on hits link to cast lightning warp, so that it automatically keeps you leashed. But then you aren't doing anything support. No, all
you're doing is just flash banging your co-op party every now and again.
It's just like a utility, so you don't get left behind when your party members playing faster than you. I actually kind of like that as like a quality of life thing, because that's the thing. Sometimes if you play two builds at a wildly different speeds, it's like it makes party play pretty awkward because the one person has to like run and then stop and run and stop. This will help keep them up.
Really good for multi-botting or something, I guess. I don't know.
Except you have to switch computers and recast it every 8 seconds.
8 seconds. I mean, it sounds like the whole bone offering problem, because it was like that was the whole thing with before we had all the triggered spells. Like, okay, bone offering, really strong, paying to keep enabled, and this just seems like that times like 100 because it's got all the other conditions on top.
Well, most people auto cast bone offering anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, can you imagine bone offering the world without any way of also cast?
There's no way.
It's not a reservation skill, right?
No,
don't think
so. You could, but if you are auto triggering it, is it then just going to cast on someone's golem?
Well, it only targets minions if you have the mastery that allows it to target minions.
That's true.
So if you're doing party play and you don't care about minions and stuff, then you could even have the link that casts spells cast your other links as well as itself if it's linked to all of your link skills,
one link
right?
at once, right?
Only one? Okay.
One per player, yeah.
Well, then if you're in a party, would it cast the links onto the other party members? Is it smart enough to do that?
Probably. They should make it smart enough to do that.
It probably every time it would pick like a relevant, like someone who isn't currently linked and link them up every time it casts. So that could actually work. True.
I think it would be a good idea for them to make the linking smartcast or some sort of like it's not just because PoE gets so messy, and if you wanted to play nice, you need to make it so it functions nice in like a messy situation, even with like ads around. Like I think actually when I'm thinking about it, maybe making like a UI function where you cannot target minions, or you can only target players, right, with utility skills or something like that. So you kind of like circumvent the trolling, and you make it better to play. Because it's like, I like the idea that you need to build around the skill and invest into it if you want to build around the link. I actually don't like the idea where everyone just links and it becomes we should all link, and that's the default play style. That seems odd to me, because it's like, I don't know, you opt into the I want to link play style.
On the topic of links, since we have been talking about them for a little bit, there's a new one that got released 40 minutes ago.
God.
It is Flame Link. Linked target gets flat fire damage. 23 to 35 is the one for level 1 version of the gem, and added fire damage equal to 5% of your maximum life.
Wait, is that like, that one? Yeah,
It's pretty good.
that is pretty good.
Yep.
And does it say how much mana per second it costs?
It costs 15 mana per second.
At level 20?
Yes. At level 1.
Yeah,
At level 1.
That's
With
a
a
lot.
I think
cast time of 0.5 seconds.
Very cool.
That's the answer to your question, I think, Niggy, is that the fact that they cost like 15 mana per second is not something just everyone can randomly do.
Yeah. No, I think the associated cost and actually having to build around it, I think it's good.
Question. Since we spent a long time on links, of the other skills, what are we excited / disappointed in?
What are the other? Oh, there's the energy
Blade.
The energy blade. That looks really cool.
Poison
No disappointment.
flask throw. I don't remember its name. I'm going to look it up.
Poison.
They
I
look
like it
really
more-
strong, both of them.
That
it looks good.
good.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to generate life flasks.
Very easy.
Yes. I like it a lot more than the other one because
Yeah.
it
More
synergizes
cohesive
a lot
as
more
well.
nicely with Pathfinder, and I want to play another Pathfinder, so I might play it.
The numbers on it are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't expecting them to be so high.
And they roughly like the throw stuff and everything, right? And the thing, I saw people playing the explosive concoction, and it didn't actually look too bad. It was a little clunky, but if the clunk is out, might be a good skill.
Yeah, if they can address all the quality of life issues, it could feel a lot better.
I mean, Pathfinder poison, Clunk is gone, dude.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
just like
Yeah.
roll
I
that
mean,
shit.
it's an AoE skill, so I'm just gonna put on my nice Plague Bearer again. And it feels good, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
what do we?
Tornadoes
so good.
What do we think about the little tornado?
I don't like Tornado.
I
bet people are
want
probably
to
excited
like
do
tornado, but I think
But it
I'm
looks
with
so
you, Ziggy.
slow and short duration. It
Yeah.
looks so awkward.
Short
Maybe
duration.
just boss killing.
I think it may be used in a number of like projectile hit based builds as just a bit of a single target amp, because it reflects 10% of the damage it took to enemies, and it takes damage from your projectiles. So if you're playing something like, I don't know, what's a decent projectile skill that's in meta right now, or just a high damage one. Ice Spear is a high damage projectile. You're playing that, then that's just what, a 10% damage buff, right?
Oh,
You throw your
Octavian,
Ice Spears in the tornado and it does the damage.
No, way more.
You missed up. You missed up. I thought you were going to say it'd be good for cremation.
True, cremation is a projectile skill.
Cremation
You
is
are
a
absolutely
projectile
correct.
skill.
You can throw a tornado on top of the enemy. You can throw 4 cremations down with the enchant, and then a flame wall, and then a tornado, and never see the ground again.
Mm-hmm.
It does sound good for boss killing with setups like that. I'm sure we're going to see people like instantly deleting high-end bosses with combos like that.
Also, it has an orb tag.
Yeah,
Orb, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense balance-wise, but
it is
it is
dumb
an
from a
orb.
thematic point of view. Yeah, no, it's stupid.
I guess
is-
it's like a slowly moving Hydra sphere, which
Yeah.
is that like it does damage based on the projectiles
mean,
that
if-
hit it specifically. So
If you look at the total damage you can do, so it'll do 10% of the damage every point. What is it? 2.5? So it's like 40% per second.
Oh yeah, I didn't even read the rate. You're right. That's
Yeah, and then you can
pretty
stack
absurd.
20 projectiles into it as well.
This is making me want to play cremation as a starter. Not that I need much
like-
encouragement.
It'll do
Yeah.
times 8 your projectile damage per second. if you get
Well,
it fully juiced.
That's assuming full uptime, but the way
Yeah,
the
yeah,
duration
yeah.
works is that it just goes forward, so it doesn't target, and then
Mm.
Well, you
after
still-
that, it
But,
starts
like,
like
Stack
Since
some
the boss
duration
could
in
just,
there,
like,
so you can
walk.
get 20 projectiles into
Okay.
it, and then it'll like
Yeah.
stick for a duration and might just melt the boss.
I agree
For
that
sure.
it's probably not going to be optimal situation. Like you're probably not going to have optimal uptime, but it's also pretty darn free to use, right? Like you just need a 1-link tornado. That's it. Unless I'm misunderstanding how the gem
Does
works.
it work the way Plague Bearer works? Like, can you juice it? Maybe.
Reflects 10% of damage taken to enemies. I don't see why the tornado would take less damage if it doesn't have support gem links. Like, if it's just a reflect, like that. If it's just a
so you
reflected
probably-
value, that would work similarly like Impale, right? It stores a damage value in the tornado and just does that damage
Yeah.
to enemies around it.
You can't juice that, but you can juice its base.
Yeah.
Stats.
So you can either like
Damage.
juice it out through duration and AoE, or you
Yeah,
could juice
okay.
it
If that was the
so you
question,
could,
yeah.
like,
So if you
try
linked
and
like Conk Effect to it, that wouldn't affect the reflected
Yeah.
damage
Mhm.
because again, like Impale, it's a stored value that's not going to get scaled by support gems.
Well, the
Um,
thing that we're forgetting as well is that the number that we have is for level 1, no? And that's already
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah,
Should
yeah,
get a lot
that's
better.
true.
Or maybe there's a helm enchant that causes it to reflect a higher amount. I don't know. That's probably not worth it over a main skill helm enchant though.
Mm.
Stop barking,
It's
Ziggy.
a shame because it does look cool, but I kind of just want to fill the screen full of tornadoes. I saw that skin, I'm like, yeah, and then they said what it did. I'm like, it's probably still good, but boo. I just want
Can
to,
you just play a Saquel then?
yeah, but like that needs all the items, and I play SSF, and it's like, you know.
Yeah, I think that's
sounds
where my
like a you
disappointment came
problem.
from. It's not like a tornado spell, but rather a tornado utility skill.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be strong for that. but
Yeah.
Which
yeah,
is
I'm not
a
very
little
excited about
weird. Yeah, I agree that tornado is a utility orb skill. That is a little strange.
Mm.
I'll give you that.
it. Thematically, throwing a bunch of shit into a tornado to make it more dangerous is kind of cool, though.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
That is cool.
It's like I'm going to throw this handful of razor blades into my
So-
tornado.
It's very
Okay,
much like
that's
someone's
all
first
guns. Let's
D&D
go.
game approach to killing a boss. It's like, okay, I put a tornado in the room, and then I throw a bunch of ball bearings
Isn't
into
it-
the tornado.
Isn't it really good with ball lightning? Does it travels in a straight line, right? Is that I'd have to look at the video again.
It travels
But
in
if
a
you get
straight
it-
line and then it starts targeting.
Okay. So like you could throw a slower proj ball lightning with it and it would stay on top of the tornado if you can sync up their speeds correctly.
Mm.
And it would just turbocharge it while it's moving with it.
Absolutely.
Lightning has
And then it
so-
starts chasing the guy too.
Could be interesting on like this like non-existent like 6-man support link party thing where it's kind of like you've got one projectile carry, then like 5 sorts will use tornadoes, like ugh, all the reflected damage.
Oh wait, can it absorb other people's, or is it just yours?
And can Hydrosphere?
I'd imagine.
Oh, I think we might be misunderstanding it.
Oh.
Hang on. Let me read through it again to make sure I understand it right. You guys keep talking.
Okay.
Octavian misunderstands it, blames it on us. Nice.
You have to hit
No,
it with
I-
projectiles.
okay.
And ball lightning
If
can
I
hit as a
misunderstood it,
projectile.
There you go. Speak for yourself.
Uh-uh.
Nobody's ever misunderstood anything on Baeclast,
No.
especially me.
What?
it will
No.
move forward for a duration during which your projectiles can collide with it to deal damage as though it were an enemy.
He's reading it out loud now.
Reflect a portion of the damage it took from your projectiles to them in addition to its own damage. So someone in chat was saying that it would only reflect a portion of a projectile's hit.
I think it has to collide with it. Actually,
From
hit
the
it.
wording, I don't see why that would be the case. Because it says it reflects a portion of the damage it took from your projectiles. Plural.
Yes.
Not one, but plural.
And that
You
does
can
say
keep hitting them.
your, so you can't like cheese it with supports and stuff.
Oh, right.
But like totem should work with it because totems and your is weird. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it should work.
Chat's saying up to 20 projectiles. Okay. I
Oh,
mean,
but the
20
totem-
cremation hits is quite a lot of damage.
Yeah.
You would need to force the totem to hit, so you need to like use focus ballista or something then.
Ugh.
And
It sounds like you can chain off it like Hydrosphere too, so it could just be an alternate
Oh, that's neat.
Mm.
option for those setups that are already doing that.
Wait,
Chain
no
hook.
way you can chain it.
Tornado.
Really?
I mean, you can off Hydrosphere, and it sounds kind of similar.
I mean, if you can collide into it, then why not?
Yeah, it's supposedly an enemy.
Can you
that
collide?
hit.
Maybe it just goes through it.
You have to.
Maybe only your projectiles can. I don't think we can meaningfully answer that question until we have access to it.
Mm. Yep.
Was there any other news? So there's Energy Blade, which you all think looks kind of cool. There's
Temporal Rift.
Temporal Rift. Yeah, that's going to be Racer Boys in the chat. Are you excited for Temporal Rift?
Wait, who?
You and Raiz, basically.
Who races?
Oh, that kind of.
Okay,
race.
no, hang on. Let me rephrase that
I
question.
was-
Let me
okay.
no, Nugi, no.
In my mind, I'll explain why.
Okay, no, quick. Okay, casters in the call. Are you excited for Temporal Rift?
No, but I was thinking because like we're talking Temporal Rift, and like I immediately jumped to like Echo and like Weaver and like all these like other games that have similar mechanics. I'm like, wait, what game is this from? Racers? Is it some kind of like car game? I don't know.
There's a bunch of Dota themes. I mean, to be honest, if I'm clicking a button when I'm dying, it's definitely not this shit. It's the log out macro, baby. That's so like I can see uses for it. It's definitely interesting, but like as far as keeping your shit alive, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. It's cool. The examples they gave were very weird. They're like, if you're killing yourself with Forbidden Right 100% of the time, you can click this every 4 seconds to do damage. Just like, wait.
I think one of the
limiting softcore for sure.
I think one of the limiting factors with it, though, is going to be the fact that it's a reservation. It is a pretty small reservation. It's only 10%, but like a lot of builds
that's a lot. 10% is a lot of mana.
A lot of builds reserve basically as much as they can get away with, so they're not going to often have room for another 10% just for the utility of jumping.
Oh, is it actually 10? I thought it was like 2%. No, I'm not ever reserving 10% for that. That's shit.
What? Yes, you will. You'll get the new chest. That's OP.
The chest. Oh yeah.
You could just reserve 10% of your mana to be immune to temp chains, because it just makes you immune to temporal chains. I mean, that's kind of nice.
Kind of nice. Yeah.
I don't know if that's worth 10%, but that's kind of nice. Wait, does it
Should we
make
talk
you
uniques then? Since
it makes you
Talk
unaffected.
uniques as well.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, since we brought it up, how about those new uniques? Like, so many leagues we've had like uniques where it's like, oh, I guess there's some niche use someone will figure out for that item. Well, I guess GG are making some creative stuff here, and now they're just like, it feels like they finally feel unafraid this league to just make some banger uniques. Like, holy shit, these things are so good. So the chest, if you didn't see it, you have to click the button on the
How do you like that, by the way? The little
that was cute.
Yeah. Alternate reality where
to reveal it.
With the items are actually good.
Oh my god, this freaking chest is so sexy. It's probably my favorite of the new ones, but all of them are pretty good. The only one that's like weird is like the gloves, but even the gloves are still
my kill
like,
now
super
gloves?
interesting. Yeah, even those are still super interesting. So the chest, if you haven't seen it because you didn't click the button or something, where is it down the bottom? Here we go.
Yeah.
Stasis Prison. So firstly, I feel like in the past GG probably would have never made this item, but they certainly wouldn't have given it 100 life. But it actually has decent core defenses and 100 life. Temporal Rift has no reservation, so you have a way of recovering your life and getting to safety during bad situations. 100% of damage taken recouped as life, so that's 25% of the damage you take per second recovered over 4 seconds. Yeah. So over 4 seconds, you recover everything you take back. And then debuffs expire 100% faster. Like, chest of immortality, man.
Such a nice chest, like evasion build or something. Yeah.
It's so good. And yeah, the fact that it is an evasion base with like 1,000 evasion with quality is actually pretty nutty.
It's gonna need some of those sacred ores for this one.
Oh man, what a sexy beast.
Okay, quickly before we go into other uniques, let's have the sacred orb discussion. Because right.
Is there a discussion?
I just want to quickly know where we all lie with it. So Nugi, you start because you brought the fucking things up. How do you feel about the sacred orbs?
I think it's fine since it's super rare. It's like if all else fails, you can pay, an absurd amount of currency to get a sacred orb, and you can try again, but it's going to be so rare. Like if it had been common. So my problem, I raised the problem when they announced the sacred orb on Twitter, which is like it kind of circumvents the idea of, you find some base item on the ground that could be like potentially like tradable, or your base item, like it creates this like search for, things on the ground. And but I'm serious. It matters, at least to a player like me, because I really like that part in all the D2 game, like all the D2 variants. I mean, we have it in medium, we have it in regular D2 and all this, and I honestly really enjoy the hunt for that. And you will settle and it'll be fine. But I don't like it if the whole point is just to introduce an orb that does it all for you. So you have to like just go out and collect a bunch of orbs again. So it's just samey, the same way, oh, I just need to bless this up. And it has like that kind of, that space it opened up, it would then shut down immediately by introducing the orb if it was easy to just use the orb for the purpose rather than actually having to find the item.
Well, they did at least say that it's like the second rarest orb in the game compared to a mirror. So that like helps that whole argument, I think, a lot. But this whole system of the variable bases, though, feels like the most redundant thing in that they've ever added, because there already exists, believe it or not, a system for this where bases can have different amounts of energy shield, for example. It's called getting a Widow's Silk robe to drop instead of a Val Regalia. They have different amounts of energy shield. But now you can get a Widow's Silk robe that has more energy shield than a Val Regalia.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, it's also just fucking dumb because we have this thing called quality. So it's just like, I know. I think the whole thing is like a mess.
Everyone has like quality doesn't exist in this at all because the quality is just at max all the time.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. It's one of those things that they've added this new thing, and it's like, right, so maybe like tie it into quality, like do something there, and so it's like, because it's basically just like a quality on top of quality.
No, because it's so high. It's so high variance, and it's gonna be very rare to find an 86 base with all like.
I completely agree, Nuggy. But what I'm saying is it's like quality was the system, the original system, and rather than make quality not a shit system, they've just added another thing on top. They could have reworked quality.
Yeah, I would have been more. I guess I would have liked the system a bit more if it like replaced quality. Like personally, I'd just be like, just get rid of quality as well.
I mean, that's what it does in D2. Because, okay, so in D2, items roll a range, but if you have a enhanced defense item, right? So the superior ones, which is what this is supposed to mimic, then the original value of the item, it's maximum. So, like, you could just have it by default, but. Okay, I came into this conversation late, okay? So I didn't see... I saw the D2 items, right? And I was like, oh, they're going full D2. Cool. Mm-hmm. And then I left. And then I came back. And when I came back, the post from Chris Wilson was already there. And I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I do not understand how people could have gotten this butthurt. But because even the stuff that you're talking about, Nugi... All we ever do on Baeclast is complain about how you can't pick up an item from the ground that's good. And now we're like imagining that like we're going to find these good items that have a bad base, then we then need to Sacred Orb. Like, no, if you're going to craft an item, like if you're going to craft an item, you're going to do it on a base that's already good. You're not going to find an item that's better than a crafted item off of the ground and then have to use a Sacred Orb on it. Like, sure, that might happen, like 1 in 10 million, whatever. But across the 5 of us, I don't think that's ever going to happen unless it's like a very shitty early on in the league sort of situation. Like you won't pick up an item from the ground that you then Sacred Orb because it's that good.
So my issue always with it, because I like when they announced it, I'm like, this is a terrible idea. I thought it was stupid from the get-go because it's one of those things of, especially when it comes to like ES spells, because like 20% more ES is kind of a big deal. It's just a situation of just like, if you have a unique that's tied to a boss and it's like a really fucking rare unique, and it's like, okay, cool, so I've killed this boss 100 times, I finally got the unique to drop lit. Oh, it doesn't have the quality on it? Well, it feels shit. Because like that's just the way our brains work. It's like you finally drop
the quality and it feels good.
Right, but it's how often it's like it's a 1 in 21. It's a 1 in 21% chance. So you have to drop the unique in the first place, then it's a 1 in 21 chance that you get it with 20 quality.
You're looking only at the negative side here, what possibly could be like, oh no. Like
I'm looking at it from the point of view of the way that gamers look at video games.
Okay. Every time you find like a helmet, right, that drops a lot, that has a variable roll that could be better or worse, you know, there's a, oh shit, I finally got the high roll.
Mm-hmm.
It opens up the same positive space as the negative space that you're looking into, where it's like, oh, I just lost out. But there's also the, like, why do we like the gloves from Cirrus? Because it enables us to high roll. Sometimes we break it completely and we lost the item.
But you have full control. Like the difference with the Cirrus gloves, like the Cirrus gloves drop And it's a case of like you do it once, you're like, oh, do I keep going? 2, and like that, it's fully in your hands, and it's that you have that exciting moment of like, oh my god, I got full corrupts. Do I go for the 5th? Like that's the whole thing. Like that's like so many levels of engagement with that.
It's also because you can lock into something good that drops often, that has a variable role. It's not like there's a cost to the Vol Orb.
Right.
Step. And also in regards, like just in regards to like the whole rare thing that Raiz was talking about, that didn't even like cross my mind for this. This is all about like base items for crafting and like finding like the pieces together before you like move on and like that kind of thing.
Yeah, but then like that's why I didn't understand why people got so upset about the Sacred Orb. In the case of unique items, absolutely, I can see that. But like all of the stuff that I saw was just like, oh, these rare items, they're ruining our experience. You said it's unchangeable. Like, mamma mia. If anything, I think because people, okay, so I had my insane boots in the gauntlet. They were super crazy. Cannot be frozen, fucking triple suffix, all the good stuff. But it was on the Wanderlust base, on like the worst one, and everybody kept making fun of me for being on a shit base. But now that's actually going to make a difference, hopefully, with the new system as to like defenses actually being worthwhile. So, if anything, the fact that people are getting so upset about this and up in arms is proof that ZiggyD did something good with defenses, because people might actually genuinely care. Because in D2, everybody cares about like the roll on your whatever item, but it really doesn't matter. Like defenses in D2, they don't matter unless you're genuinely scaling it, which you don't. But people really give a fuck about like how much defense you have on the item, even if it's a minimal amount. So maybe people will care here, and caring is enough, to make it a fun system. And not just the negative that you were describing, Tarke, but more so the positive that Nugi was
like.
looking at.
I could definitely see that. I think my just main issue with it is it's the fact of, because like for me the main difference is like D2 doesn't have this whole thing of like, okay, get your eye level 86 influence base. Like you already have
very simple.
You have so many steps. It's like I get excited when I finally get my eye level 86 influence base on the right base item. Like that enough is like, oh, I finally got the thing. I don't need this extra level of shit on top of it. And it's a case of, we all agree that the loot needs a fucking rework. So it's like, when we're desperate for the loot to finally get cleaned up, I just don't want to be adding more levels of bullshit to an already messy loot system. Clean up the loot system and then do this shit. I'm all for it. But like, why are we doing this shit now?
I think part of the intention here was to further buff armor and evasion as defensive tools. And, this is another vector by which you can scale a bit more armor and evasion out of each of your gear slots by getting the one that has, the exact right roll, the 20 or whatever it goes up to. I forget exactly the cap. And I think this whole side effect is something that probably wasn't really the intention. I haven't spoke to any GGG devs about that, but yeah, I kind of agree with you that we have enough layers of complexity in gearing already, and Scourge as a mechanic is already adding one too, with more Scourged implicits. So I don't think it was strictly necessary, but also to like temper that point, I don't think it matters a ton either, personally, which is why I've never really been too up in arms about the Sacred Orb or any of it. Like,
yeah,
ultimately, a baseline
Vulnerabilia
is as powerful as it was before. Like
my
there's
evasion
an
build is dead, and
opportunity
Octavian
now
doesn't
to
care.
get a better item, and you can even log into a better item. And it's like, if you need a Volvigalia as a starting base 86, you'll take it. Like people say, oh, you're just gonna filter out everything except the 20 quality or the fully quality one or the fully high one. No, you won't. You will still need your base type. You will still, right? And over time, you might start filtering out and looking for that perfect. But you will still need the correct eye level of the correct type with the correct influence early on, probably. Or you will settle with some of the new upgraded non-influence because they can roll really well. But I would assume that some of the new affixes will also be locked behind the high eye level. So you're still looking for the eye level rolls. I mean, anyone who does trade will know that high eye level gear early on is most definitely worth something early on.
And I don't know. Finish your
Quickly,
point,
sorry, go on, Ziggy, because you were AFK for this whole conversation. You want to say something?
Oh, I was just surprised I came back and we're still talking about the quality thing because, like, I don't like it very much, but it seems like such a minor thing ultimately. Like, I don't think it really matters that much, and I think there are people were only really that upset about it because there wasn't really that much to be upset about. You know what I mean? So
Okay,
this was
but
the thing.
it was-
This was the magnet.
It was coming off of like a really rough league, and we didn't have a lot of the information as to the quality of life and larger scope updates that were coming next league. Like this was one little shadowy corner of what 316 was going to bring that we were allowed to see. So obviously the discussion focused on that because that's what people could see. I commend the restraint that people at GGG had to not say, yeah, but like we're also making things stack and you can click on them when they drop and they're stacked, guys. Like you wanted that, right? And we're also making it so that like guild stashes can be control clicked into and there's going to be a guild hideout. There's all this stuff you've wanted forever. Please stop complaining about sacred orbs. Please.
I remember that when we were doing Baeclast and Legion was coming out, and we were like, "Listen, Chris, incubators. So tell us this." And eventually Chris was like, "No, listen, guys. Like, Legion is not about incubators. Like, chill out. Like, why are we hung up on this thing forever?" But I don't think it's going to be tied to item level, and that's like a really cool thing in D2 that you can just like run pit and get really good base items for certain things. Maybe that's going to be a way for people to kind of catch up on bases. Like you don't need to juice. You drop a good base if you're behind on the economy and you sell it to a player that needs a lot of them to then craft the items to then scourge them, and you can kind of like provide some value for the lower level players in that way. That'd be cool economically if it works out that way.
Well, to move on from the Sacred Orb discussion, aspirational content is a big thing coming in 316. What's the vibe there?
I think it's great that it's being added, and I think it's going to take a long time for people to master this top tier of content. There's going to be some folks who are, blitzing through Wave 30 Simulacrum in a month or two into the league, or maybe even earlier. But I think the player base at large is going to take a while to sink its teeth into Blight Ravaged maps and Wave 30's Delirium and Delve. Good Lord, what they're doing to Delve. My God. 1,500 is the new 6,000? That's absurd. That means every floor from 500 to 1,500 is about 5 times as difficult to traverse than it was before.
Plus the mods.
Absurd.
Because you get mods all the way through. Yeah. And
It's
before
absurd.
you were stopping mods at 6K, right?
Like if you push to 500 depth now, that is an achievement.
That's a feat.
Yeah. That is huge. I don't think people are going to break like 800 in hardcore, 800 maybe.
I think people are going to get caught off guard a little bit here. They're going to go to like 200 and think, oh, no, I'm in 200. It's fine. And
Wait, how much are people getting? I don't think they're going to break like 500. What?
In hardcore, there's folks who, I think when I was in hardcore trade last, there was an announcement for like 900 something. So I was being generous. I think maybe people won't get past 500 or 600, but I believe in people. I think they'll make some pretty darn strong builds.
It's like if we get past 300, you're a god gamer now. God damn.
Oh yeah,
like
it'll require very good.
I'm super hyped for that, by the way. I freaking love Delve. It's one of my favorite leagues ever, and I love a reason to go back to it.
I think this is the long-needed revamp for Delve, especially like cutting down to level 80 and stuff like that now, because the times where I'd always start considering whether I was going to start delving was like I was doing tier 16 maps and I was like, is it time to start delving? Or like, it's going to take too long to get anywhere. Now it actually starts relevant right off the bat. I'm sure it's going to be a little hard when you first start because you won't have any upgrades. At level 80 is going to be pretty interesting, but it sounds awesome.
No doubt.
I realized that I skipped over some of the unique discussions, so if you want to circle back around to the unique stuff.
No.
Okay, never mind.
I like the uniques, please.
The uniques are good. Yeah, so we talked about Stasis Prison, the chest. We also touched on Mage Blood, the belt, which is the one that has 4 utility flasks active all the time. It's obviously really good. I think we all agree, right?
Yeah.
Yep, insanely good. Solid competitor for Headhunter, I think. Especially because
if you're bossing, it is like...
Yeah, you can get 100% increased flask effects. You can get, 80% from the Incubator models or whatever it is?
Total.
Yeah, so you can get that and just have it up all the time. Someone
if you
did like
go if you go triple Ellie, you have 50% less damage taken from all elemental sources.
and like 100% move speed and like 30-40% attack and cast speed. It's
pretty
pretty bloody good.
You could have
And that's
already
like-
done that for free though, without the belt slot. It's called Harvest. Easy, dude. You have infinite uses before. Why weren't people freaking out about that?
Mm,
You mean the enchants?
Yeah.
No,
I mean, that's literally what it resulted in for people doing bosses in hardcore, at least.
Yes.
Like, you could use it 1,000 times. You would just have permanent flasks for boss encounters every time.
I definitely love farming enchants from Harvest. That's my favorite thing in the world, Raiz.
It took effort. It was like this much effort. Like,
But
you
it's
do
also
it so
like
little.
the duration of the flasks, right? Because you use the one that makes them last less time for more effect,
Yeah.
right? There's all that going into it.
Okay,
And
if
you
we're,
don't need
if we're
to-
saying this is better than a headhunter, it's literally for free. It's a for free headhunter, and you're like, Jesus, too much effort. Like, I don't know. Come on. Like, you could have already done this.
I don't think this is better than Headhunter at like the higher ends of Headhunter, but I think it is better than Headhunter at builds that aren't. Because when you get a Headhunter, people have run into this before where they're like, yes, I finally got a Headhunter. And then they realize that they need to drop another 20-30x on their build to make it a Headhunter build to really take full advantage of that.
Yeah, it
I
takes
think
a
in
certain
those
type of
cases,
clear
this is
speed and
better.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, this
Depending
is
on
better
con-
just chucking it on your non-Pathfinder builds. And then basically getting most of the benefits of a Pathfinder on top of your character.
It's
is
also
already doing
good
other
in every scenario. Like, there's never there's no content in Path of Exile. So you're like, oh no, I've got these really strong things up all the time.
Mhm.
Whereas
It's
oh, go on, sorry.
no, I didn't mean to interrupt. But I was trying to piggyback off your every scenario point by saying it's super customizable. Like, if you need some chaos res, you swap in an amethyst flask. If you need some crit, you swap in a diamond flask. You have so many options.
Permafacing with
That's- yeah.
all that kind of stuff as well. You can actually use it to cap your resist.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it does
with the
have,
sword, you have
Zero gear.
150 or 125% resist to all. Like,
Yep.
It
I would
does
like
have,
Rise to tell us what he thinks with interpretive dance, please, Rise. Go. Yep. Interesting. Deep in thought.
Is his camera frozen?
No, he's
I
gone.
think he disconnected. I think his camera froze.
I killed him.
Bullied out of
What
the
have I
call.
done? Ah.
We
But, yeah,
can't see or hear you, Rise. You just got straight deleted from the call. That
Might be.
yeah. While Rise fixes that, what other uniques have we seen, Ziggy?
There is the Untitled Vow, which looks like a Chayula amulet for some reason.
Oh, I
and
liked that.
Apparently
That was a
drops
good
from
one.
any of the Breach
Yeah.
Lords. I don't know.
any? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Called
I don't know.
Orbital, drops from anything, looks like a Chayla item.
Yeah. So that annoys me.
Yeah.
That whole thing annoys me. But the amulet itself looks quite strong. It's got super variable resistance rolls. It can roll negative on all of them, it seems. Or it can roll positive on all of them. Because the first example was like positive chaos res and the rest were all negative. And I was like, that looks variable. And then the one on the actual page is positive all resistances. So huge variance there on how good it is in terms of that regard. But yeah, if you guys don't know what it does, it lets you add another support gem to your 6-link chest. Anything except Empower, Enlighten, Enhance, but you can just put those on the main links and still, so that doesn't really mean anything. But yeah, you can add another support gem. So in many cases, that's what 20-30% more damage from an amulet. Pretty good.
I don't know what Rise has done, but there are now 2 Tarkes on the overlay, and I'm kind of into it. But we have lost Ziggy.
Oh.
Huh.
Wait, what?
You guys are mirrored. That's weird.
Yeah.
Where am I? I'm Rise now?
Yeah, you're Rise now.
And he changed spots. That's weird.
When okay, let me try doing a quick little server swap.
Okay.
Let's try going to
I'm enjoying this.
Rise ate me.
Didn't we see another amulet? The Blight?
oh,
Swapping servers.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Points.
okay,
But yeah,
Rise is
Blight
still AFK though, but yeah. Yeah, the Blight Ami's like what, 3 enchants or something?
Mm-hmm.
3 plus,
Four.
right?
3
4
additional, so
total.
it's 4 total.
4 annoyance. Yeah, which is very good compared to amulet stats, I think, in many cases.
And then you double corrupt it, and you get sad.
Or Scourge it up,
Yep.
and then get happy.
No, you do that after you've double corrupted.
Can't do it if it's disappeared.
True.
Yeah, me again.
I have a question for you, Tarke, here on the
Yes.
other amulet. So what happens once you've been farming this like uber tier breach content? You find all the tools vow and it rolls -30 on everything.
You divine.
How are you gonna be happy about that?
I would make a passive aggressive YouTube video and I would tweet Bex and say, "What is this awful video game?" And that's probably what I'd do, right?
That was rude.
Mm-hmm.
We can move on.
Mm-hmm. That's what you do as a content creator if you have a problem with a video game, right? Complain on the internet.
The other unique was the new gloves that were revealed. That's just generic stuff, and then anything that's killed nearby you counts as your kill, which is, this isn't one of those like just super powerful items, but rather like a very interesting, unique mechanic. So it could be used for like magic finding stuff. Yeah, it could be used for various on kill effects. Exactly what it's going to work with and what builds are going to use it, I have no idea. It seems like a weird one, but it is at least very interesting.
It's really neat with Chains of Command because you can give it to your Animate Guardian, and then the Animate Guardian is the one that gets the credit for all the kills.
Ooh, cool.
Which is not an idea I had myself. I have to credit Twitch chat for that.
Hold on.
I am merely the voice of the chat.
You can generate charges for yourself on kill with these while being a minion build.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. If you get like overcharged or something, sure.
Yeah.
You could also just
wait,
use,
and then
the
could you
shield
then
of it.
share to your minions if you then had the
What, conduit or something?
since you're generating and then you
well,
can
conduit's to
or is
party
that
members,
to
so that
party
wouldn't work with
members?
minions.
Victoria's Charity does it, doesn't it?
I'm not sure how that works.
But on that Animate Guardian thing, you could also give it like obliterations, because you give Animate Guardian weapons, right? Yeah, give it like obliteration, so you're getting all the pop-ups.
True.
Cool. Yeah, they seem super interesting. So that's like much more the like design we've been seeing with like niche weird stuff. But this is an example of, I think, niche weird stuff that is actually super interesting and potentially really powerful.
Speaking of stupid niche weird stuff, I'm waiting for a link that you want to use on Skitterbots. Big brain. That'd be fun.
Oh, like a link skill. For some reason,
Yeah,
for a second
yeah.
there, I thought you just meant like a support channel. That you
Oh.
link
Yeah,
to
no,
it.
yeah, fucking link the Skitterbots, because the Skitterbots are immune. So they can't die or anything, so you don't need to worry about them dying. It's like, pah!
Well, there's. I was about to say there's the one that casts a spell on hit, but skitters don't hit. There's the Essence mod that you can use on a weapon that summons 2 immortal SRS minions.
Mm-hmm.
So that one would work with the cast on hit skill.
We have Raiz back. He's not in the call though, so that's a good start.
He's back, but not back.
He's back, but he's gone. Yeah.
I am curious how he fixed it without being there, but that's just Raiz.
Yeah.
Nice. So I think that's all the uniques that have been revealed so far. So they said there's going to be 6. So that's 1, 2, 3 plus the amulet plus the gloves. That's 5. I think there's still one more to go. So I guess we'll get that over the coming days.
Hopefully, since we got patch notes right after the announcement, we don't have as much to tide us over. We're just waiting on that JSON file.
Welcome back, Raiz.
Am I working?
Hey.
Oh, I was just hooking up my other internet. Very cool.
Oh, very cool.
Something's been going on with my internet. Sorry, boys. Continue. Please continue.
It's okay. We just finished wrapping up all the unique talk. Right. Is there any other big stuff for us to talk about before we get into patch notes?
What's survival jewels? Keep chat saying survival jewels.
Oh, we
What's that?
haven't seen what those are yet, are they? It's the new jewels that change how the flask charges work. It was in one. I can't remember if it was in the first. I think it was in the first manifesto. It's the
I don't even remember.
It's the Golden Hand quest in Act 2.
Mm-hmm.
The rework to the old jewels. It's not a new unique. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, apparently they are in the patch notes. There you go.
Oh,
Right. Okay.
you good?
Would someone like to be handy, Octavian? If you could pull those up for me.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Appreciate you.
God, stop being such a slave trap.
Well, but let's think for a sec. So aspirational content wise, we've got I think the belt and the chest are global drops, but really rare. The amulets from all of the top tier of Breach Lords, and from Uber Blights, we've got the new amulet there as well. So the last one I'm hoping is for another piece of aspirational content, which I guess missing would be something new for Delve, or something new for Delirium, or something new for Legion, maybe. Ziri got stuff shuffled around, so it's probably not going to be that. Plus, she's pretty old.
Apparently, the chest is Legion. Apparently, Stasis is Legion. It kind of makes sense.
Oh,
Stasis, it makes sense.
Oh, okay. Well, so the chest is Legion. Oh, damn, that's a nice chase for Legion. Holy moly!
How dare you, Ziggy?
So
She's pretty old.
Yeah.
If you want me to
go on, Octavian. Go on, Octavian.
No, I don't want to get in the way of the beef.
No, Octavian, go.
What did I do?
I'll have beef with you if you don't start reading it out, Octavian.
Oh yeah,
she's my queen.
So it's three different jewels that alter how flask charge gen works, essentially. Instincts has 50% chance for your flasks to not consume charges, but 70% less flask charges gained from kills. Survival skills has 2 charges gained when you hit a non-unique enemy, no more than once per second, and 80% less flash charges gained from kills. And then survival secrets is 2 flash charges every 3 seconds while your flasks are inactive, and 50% less flask duration. So they've all got a significant downside, but a really interesting upside.
Yeah.
Well, the first one, if you have alternate forms of generation, like Pathfinder's generations over time, or various nodes and masteries and stuff like that, is really nice. But they all seem kind of useful / interesting as alternates. And these were supposed to be filling the gap of like, what do people who just don't kill very fast do for flasks? Give them some alternative options. So that's cool stuff. I like seeing that.
And there is a limit of 1, by the way. In case that wasn't evident. If you could use 2, you would get 100% chance for flasks to not consume charges, which would be pretty good.
They're not like OP, but they seem like interesting alternative tools. They seem like useful tools, interesting tools to me.
Speaking of uniques, we missed out on the most exciting unique to appear in the patch notes. Of course, it's Ziri's Disfavor.
They really don't want to make that muscle out too many rare items, do they?
I think Raiz died again.
Oh no!
no.
He died when you mentioned Disfavor. You mentioned Disfavor and that killed him.
Oh no, he's back. He's choppy, but he's back.
Oh, am I?
You're back. Do you want to talk about Ziri's Disfavor, Raiz?
Go. No, I was gonna let you hang on it. I can hear you guys and everything. It's just not. I don't know. I've been having that problem since yesterday. It's weird. Probably have to switch internets. No, Ziri's Disfavor sucks. I don't know what the fuck they're doing with that. It's really weird.
Well, I think they just really don't want like too many uniques that just muscle out rares and don't do a ton else. So yeah,
it is nice dropping from regular Ziri. Like it'll be a decently available 2-hand weapon early on for people who care about that.
That's if they don't make it super rare. Like if it's like 0.5% chance to drop from regular Ziri, then it doesn't really help that much.
Yeah, hopefully that's not the case. I'm not talking like flask rarity or something, but hopefully you get it like maybe 1 every 10 runs or something.
It's just, I don't know. It's a weird one. I feel like I can understand them wanting to protect, like, oh, we don't just make like a more like really strong weapons, but then why don't they like reflavor it a bit, like, spice it up with a bit of a downside, or just like do something,
Fuck this Ziri's Disfavor talk. Let's talk about how wrong Tarke is for disliking the patch notes being released early. That's a much better topic.
Look, it's a very selfish point of view. So for anyone who missed it, I just talked about this very briefly in the pre-show. Basically, this is my point of view. As I said at the start of the episode, I chose a really bad time to start having a social life. I've got some exciting things going on at the moment, and I planned my life around like, okay, these are the days that things are dropping. I can take the piss for a couple of days. This is when I need to focus. And then GGG was like, yo, fuck you, Tarke, patch notes. I was like, bruh, it's a very selfish point of view, but like me and the Path of Building guys, we're crying in the corner because we had shit we wanted to do.
Don't you know who he is? He has big stuff going on.
It's Ziggy gets it.
Listen, the Path of Building guys aren't crying because Jason is fucking still at the bar and it's not coming over anytime soon. How weird is that? We get the patch notes finally and they're like, listen, you're gonna get to make your build. Just kidding. No skill tree, by the way.
And that's
so
my thing. That's
bullshit.
like, look, that's the thing, right? Is like if we can't have Jason, then let Tarke have a social life. That's all I'm saying. If we had Jason, I wouldn't be salty.
None of us can function without Path of Building anymore. I think this is the final acknowledgement of that fact.
Well, I mean, even before Path of Building, you knew what was on the skill tree, right?
Yeah, we don't know what's on the skill tree.
No, we don't know.
Like this would have been so good last patch
Just
because it was
build
the
your
same skill
character,
tree.
Alright, just build your character. Stop complaining.
But I don't have a skill tree.
Just do
People
it,
did
build
say
it.
that. It's like you're so what did they say? Dude, I've been insulted in so many ways about this. Like that I can never appreciate what they're doing. It's like, dude, I've been begging for them to release patch notes early. It's so good that they finally did it. But without the skill tree, I still can't make the build. It makes like no sense. Like that's the thing that you make the build with, the skill tree, and we don't know what's on it. I really wish that they would have like they were so close, you know? They were so close. It's such a GGG thing to do.
But Bramble Valley isn't on the Atlas anymore, so all is forgiven.
But
Some people
mineral
are salty.
pools
What
and
was it?
mazes.
Beach and stuff. Like, are people pissed about beach?
Yep.
I like
Dude,
the
they said
shrinking of the
see you
Atlas
on the
overall.
beach. They said see you on the beach and they removed the beach.
Yes.
Fucked up. That was a
I feel like
jab and a half.
that was intentional.
It's a price I'm willing to pay to get rid of Bramble Valley. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You didn't like Bramble Valley?
I'll go on, sorry.
There's so many worse maps than Bramble Valley. Mineral pools, maze.
No.
Bramble
Disagree.
Valley just had a fucked boss. The boss was only fucked. But that's because the harvest bosses are broken and you don't need to fix them because you don't see a tier 4 boss like you see them like once in 3 leagues anyway. So they're like, why would we fix them?
There's a little more reason to try and do a Shabi now if you ever do find her, because the hat that she drops is a lot cooler.
Yeah, how many Oshabi fragments did you guys find?
0.
Wait, what are those?
Hopefully
So
those
across
are more
the 5 of
common.
it, nobody's found a single one.
No, I haven't found one.
I was even farming harvest because after my marathon thing, I was like gonna do this thing where I got a bunch of the divination card gambles by farming harvest. And I did it for days and just got like basically none. It was the most punishing, frustrating thing. I gave up. I grinded a mirror, but then I gave up on farming harvest. That was the thing that killed the league for me.
They
I didn't see any of them then either.
I think last time I saw Oshabi was in 313. Straight up. Pretty sure it's been 2 leagues without.
314, I saw her once, I want to say.
In Ultimatum? You saw an Ultimatum?
I think so.
That's pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Those before the fragments? I feel like I would have found Oshabi frequently.
I fought Ashabi once in the last couple of leagues. It wasn't last league, so it was either Ultimatum or 313.
I found there's so much. But then the fragments hit? Never a thing. I don't even know how they drop. Did they have a chance to drop from tier 3 seeds? From tier 4?
The boss seeds, the tier 4 seeds.
Yeah, the tier 4.
I have dropped 1-1, not this league, but league before. So they drop from the boss seeds, and that you barely ever see those is the first problem.
Yeah.
They haven't said what they're doing with the div cards from the mats they've removed, have they?
They changed where a lot of them drop.
Yeah.
They have like a big list in the patch notes where they changed where a whole bunch of them drop. Same thing with some prophecies. They changed the witch bosses, the target of witch prophecy.
You can find Fiend in Porjoice now. That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Isn't that a nerf to like people who are farming that via juicing and whatnot? Not that it's like super farmable, but it was like for people that were giga juicing. Because it was in a regular map before, right?
Was it?
And now it's in Porjoice.
Shrine?
Fiend was in Shrine, yeah.
Did they remove Shrine?
How many people were giga juicing Shrine, though? I mean, it's a decent map. It's got decent density, but it's kind of annoying to traverse. So I feel like people were probably not that sad about Shrine.
Yeah.
Beach, I understand being sad about Beach.
Burial chamber. Boo-hoo.
You know what I'm
That's
really
done.
excited for? Like, way too excited for? Portal scrolls dropping in stacks.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I don't think
pretty
you're too excited. I think you're the correct amount of excited, which is a lot.
Yeah.
The future.
Yes, stack dropping is... mwah.
I am very excited about them buffing the breach node and then the stacks dropping. That
Yeah.
I'm very
Mm.
excited.
Oh my
about.
god, Nugi. You made a face there, sorry. There's a face in the middle of that.
Was expressing.
Visible excitement.
Yeah, so they made it that all the breach splinters drop at the end of the breach when it closes now, right, in a pile,
Yeah.
and they all stack up now. So it'll just be one stack you click. So I farmed Flash Breach as part of my like mirror farming thing last league, and it's pretty profitable. But God, it is so much clicking. All those splinters spread out everywhere, painful. And now that like breach has the Uber breach stuff that you're probably going to want to try and push
Yeah.
towards. If you're actually being a plebeian and farming the splinters yourself, that would have been really frustrating. So that's a huge change. Very nice. Makes Flash Breach a lot more attractive.
And Parandus is just gone.
Does anyone miss? Will anyone miss Parandus?
No, I mean, I
Yeah,
can't
a
speak
little
for
bit.
everyone. I won't.
No,
kinda
but him
like
fading
Brandon.
out and the tumbleweed was kind of sad though.
That was good. I liked that.
It'd be funny.
That's such a good Reddit meme.
I cried a little bit. Just a single tear.
I always
mean-
kind of liked the character of Kadir, bro, but like as a mechanic,
Yeah.
it was dead.
Yeah, just like memes and like it's an old league that's been with us for a long time, and it was like the first league where GG was really, truly gifty with a lot of stuff as well. Like we started seeing things like Voltaxic that was super rare and chase at the time. All of a sudden, like people could just have a lot of fun items that they couldn't have. So it was a big league historically. So there's a little twinge of sadness there, but as a league mechanic for the game to go away is a perfect choice for it to just.
I wonder what they're gonna do with some of Yanis's rewards in like research or wherever it is that he spawns a Kadiro for you to trade with.
It'll just be like
Yeah, they didn't mention that
logbook
one.
shit or something. I don't know.
They changed most of them to Expedition or
Yeah.
just got rid of them in many cases. It's probably Expedition stuff for Janus now, yeah. Even though that makes less thematic sense because he's literally a Parandus himself.
Parandus ruined Path of Exile. It was the beginning of the end. When people realized that they can get a 60 Exalt item in Act 2 for 3,000 coins, they were like asking for more. That's when the Reddit riots started. That's when the economy
Back in
fell
my
apart.
day.
Everything got ruined. People point to like benchcraft. No, it was Parandus. I still remember Nugi's game crashing 45 times a day,
Oh my god, that was
dying
actually
over and over in Parandus.
It was
I remember
actually
my
what made
entire
me use
party
the long out.
crashing.
Yeah.
My
That's
entire
when I
party
quit it.
crashed, and I died. And that was sad.
I remember Spark Spiders with increased duration and projectile speed and multiple projectiles colliding with the packs in the game, grinding to a halt as you murdered everything slowly while the frame rate started. Good times.
Now
Really,
you'll go ahead.
I was just gonna say absolutely degenerate VMS consuming dart builds. That's all I really remember from Parandus.
Yeah, poison with freaking double dipping from projectile damage and duration.
Poison chaining with Binos, and then you would get like 40,000 regeneration per second. It was a very different league. That was my first ever level 100 on SRS. I got
Congrats.
carried by a flame blast guy. It was great. I would never even see the mobs. I'd just run around.
Wait, was your first 100 also on SRS? Mine too.
Yeah, mine was an SRS. Unascended Scion. Because no ascendancies existed, so I have it to this day. It's called Rescue Team. It's cool. Transferred my name over to that one. And I was like, yeah. I'm never going to remove it.
You're making me feel like a youngin' again. Like I'm all fresh-faced and new to the scene.
Yeah, we're all doing the old men nostalgia.
I didn't start
During-
playing until Harbinger, and I skipped Parandus.
Oh, there you go. Well, during the intro, Ziggy was talking about like chasing bears, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, what is our lives without Path of Exile? Like when we're not playing Path of Exile, the world sounds so bizarre when describing what we're actually up to. And then we started talking about links, and I'm like, okay, no, it's equally bizarre when we're still playing PoE. It's just a combination of fucking weird now.
I had something I was going to say, but it's completely gone now.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's all right.
interjected.
That's fine.
I'm sure it was something impactful about
It was. I'm
Parandus.
sure it was something really great. It was like
I don't think-
everyone
I don't-
loved it.
I don't think we talked about ailments.
Yes,
And
the
how
ailment
those are going away.
changes, and also we didn't really touch on the stuff they're doing with Flask now either. because they've changed flasks again.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Like how?
They've
Life loss?
they've like doubled the healing on life flasks.
So good.
They like
that.
added like 2 seconds on average to the duration of all the utility flasks. They've had it
Ew.
so like a bunch of the stuff is like the reactive stuff is on life flasks, but utility flasks just have like constant effects. And then
There's just so much shit I already forgot.
it's
It was a little while ago at this
insane.
point.
It is insane how much stuff they've done this league.
I feel like we had a really good discussion a while back, and I don't know, I think it might have been you, Octavian, who was talking about life and mana flasks being reactive, but utility flasks being proactive,
Yeah.
which I super hard agreed with. And then they made these changes, which is fantastic. So yeah, now utility flasks are proactive, so you can use them ahead of time to become immune to elements, or you can use a life flask and get up to 17 seconds of immunity, which is a really good duration, I think, as a reward for that. Like, that's significant. That's like the next couple packs potentially. And that's good stuff.
I 100% agree, but I think it was Nugi who said it.
Sorry, Nugi. Shredded.
It's okay.
It's like whenever it's
also-
anything smart, we just assume that it's Octavian automatically.
Also, they're adding a whole bunch of mods that only show up on high level flasks, which is really cool because I like having another min max a little bit further.
I don't like
Personally.
that change.
No?
To offer a counter
I'll give
viewpoint.
you a point, sir.
I like that there's like
marketplace of ideas.
I like that there's like, you know, more stuff you can do later on. That's kind of cool. But rolling flasks is already like super painful, and then they're adding a ton of mods and mod tiers to high level flasks. Now they did some stuff that I did kind of like when they made this happen, where it's like this is 73, this one's 74, this one's 75, which gives you a little bit more control over that by reducing the mod pool by taking something slightly lower level. But yeah, no, rolling those high level flasks sounds super painful.
I'm with
Super
Ziggy
painful.
on this one.
Yeah.
I guess
Sorry.
I'm just
I can-
bourgeoisie scum then.
Yeah.
I will probably do like 1 or 2 flasks that are like super important. So maybe like my life flask or something like that, and make that super powerful eventually. But I reckon a lot of players are probably just going to be happy with and that's kind of fine as well, that a lot of players are just going to be happy with the flasks they have at early in game, because they're still going to be good. You can just get like a bit better ones at higher level if you want. Still, flask crafting is interesting potential, like economically speaking, because you'll be able to craft flasks and then sell, 90% of the flasks you make until you finally get something that's for you. And then already you can craft and sell flasks for like 20 to 40 chaos easy. That's, I imagine, the value of some of these high level ones are going to be like, people are going to be paying like an exalt for a flask or more.
I think it's kind of interesting how it seems to be that GGG's reaction to harvest crafting and everyone saying we want more ways to like engage with our characters, like fine, fuck you, high level flasks, the new Scourge system. Like, it seems like a very clear response to that. It's like, oh, you want to like have a long gear progression grind? Well, this is how you fucking do it.
Yeah. There's more outlets for it too now as well. There's Wave 30 Simulacrum and Blight Ravaged maps. Like, as you said, you probably won't need to perfect these things unless you want to go to Wave 30 Simulacrum. Then you're probably going to want to perfect your flasks, and you're probably going to want to get good Scourge mods and stuff like that to push that kind of content. So, it's good they're introducing the tools to get that extra few percent of power in multiple places in your build, so it's not all concentrated in just one area. You can push a little bit of power out of your flasks and a little bit of power out of every Scourge item that you can fit into your build, and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be kind of funny. It might actually be possible that vendoring rares for alt shards would be more worth it than doing the chaos recipe because of alt prices going through the roof from this.
I mean, but hasn't that been the case for a long time?
It's been getting close.
Yeah.
Usually chaos recipes.
It's gone up and down a lot.
I haven't done chaos recipe in years.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, with all the cluster jewel stuff, it was like the way to do it. You would run rarity, do double boss content, and just pick up all the rares and sell them for alts.
I can't remember what league it was, but I got so desperate for alterations, I was running Delve and turning off my loot filter at the end of every Delve node just so I could vendor all the rares. That was a vibe.
Ziggy, you gotta grow out your hair. Because we all have long hair and you don't, so you got to grow it out.
Oh,
yeah.
I just cut it. Shit, I guess I'm behind a bit.
Maybe it's on us. Cut it.
There you go. That's all I could think of during that entire conversation.
Why?
I contributed.
I feel like we've definitely reached a certain point of the night where it's like, oh, we will have long hair and facial hair now. Ziggy, grow your hair out.
I've came close to growing my hair long once, and I hated it. Got it. I can't handle it. Like, it sounds so annoying. Why do you? How do you guys like handle your hair touching your face on the back of your neck and shit? It seems super
hair
annoying.
ties if you want.
It's comfy.
I've really missed having long hair because I used to have long hair when I had long hair from the age of like 18 to 21, and then I cut it all off. And I shit you not, for the last 8 years I haven't felt like myself. But with lockdown and my hair growing out again, I'm like, dude, I feel like me again. It's lit.
I think it was a joke, beautiful. And we weren't actually supposed to turn into a hair talk.
No, we talk about hair now. This is a hair stream only.
Right, he took us down a hard right turn.
He knew what he was doing.
Her class is good.
I could segue it into talking about the new MTX.
Yeah, go on.
Similar, sort of, kind of visual aesthetics things. No, okay, sorry. Hair.
What shampoo do you all use?
Which one don't I? Oh my god. Wait, you said MTXs?
Yeah, the new supporter packs. I forget what they're called, but there's one that's like ebony black and one that's bright white. Ivory looking. They're pretty.
Well, I didn't get paid to talk about MTXs. What the hell?
That's
also part of our contract.
I ain't talking about monetization unless I'm sponsored, baby. Give me that buns.
You'd be waiting for a long time when it comes to GGG and that.
Okay, were there any things in the patch notes that shocked you guys? Like things like, why are they doing this thing?
Elemental equilibriums change.
The EE change is weird. Yeah.
That didn't shock me though, because the fact that like every single build would get Elemental Overload and Elemental Equilibrium, you know, the appropriate builds, is something that seems like an obvious choice to change, and I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner. So that didn't surprise me. It is an adjustment though, isn't it?
I understand why it was changed. I agree with you there. Maybe shock is the wrong term, but like the change that was made killed it for quite a lot of builds, is not, in my opinion, very interesting for the builds that do still have access to it and might want to use it. Like that's the larger reason why I dislike it. I just don't think it's very interesting. Elemental Equilibrium to me is this like iconic piece of Path of Exile. It's really, really neat, and it sort of represents PoE super well, where you have a keystone that encourages you to be creative with your builds and swap between different elements, or have your damage source be something other than you, so you can apply the lightning damage, and your damage source might be your minions doing cold. Like it's one of those jumping off points that makes you think about a build, and that's really, really cool. And new Elemental Equilibrium is functionally almost the same, but in a much harder place to use on the passive tree for a lot of the builds that would want it, and significantly worse. Instead of being still interesting but different, which is what I was kind of hoping for.
I disagree with that last point, because that's one thing I did quite like about the change, was moving it to Ranger, because there are lots of different sources for exposure up in the top left areas of the tree, builds around there. But that's much harder for Rangers and Shadows and things like that. So being down there now is an interesting alternative for a strong exposure effect. Like 25% exposure is pretty good. Certainly not as good as old EE, but I think that was a good move to send it down that way as a tool for them.
I really dislike the Ellie Overload change. I've been saying for the longest time, I've always found crit really boring in Path of Exile, because it feels like every build just eventually go crit, and there were some builds where like Ellie Overload's like, alright, cool. And I've kept saying I want to do more like Ellie Overload attack-based builds, but like I feel like I always have to go crit on those. So when I saw they're moving EE, I'm like, oh, maybe they're going to move EO, maybe we can make it interesting. It's like, no. And the fact that you can no longer use Ellie Overload on stuff like totems or traps or mines, which was already like clunky, you had to do all these extra steps to get it to work, and you just can't anymore. It's like, guess I'm playing more crit builds. That's exciting.
Have they confirmed it doesn't work with those?
Yep, it only works on the skill that triggers it.
Yep.
So it's just like they just straight up deleted a bunch of functionality from a bunch of random skills.
100%.
Yeah.
It seems like much of it was balanced around Ignite, and I don't know. That also destroys the identity of Ignite because it's supposed to be this oomph. Well, now it's like spam your skill until it pops. You're playing
I
a
do
poison
think-
build that doesn't hit. Like, I don't know.
Did lock a certain amount of skills in that specific area.
Yeah,
Like
that's
you
the.
were like, that was the downside of it, especially with like dot builds. If you wanted to be in anywhere else, it was almost impossible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
GGG really hates like building around this thing that like unless you take it, your shit just doesn't work. And that's what EE and EO did a lot of times. Like if you're playing this build, you have this 100% of the time without exception. And that's definitely not a good way to do things because I think they proved that time and time over. The good example would be like the old reduced mana gem where like everybody would use it. I don't like those sort of things. But then simultaneously, what shocked me was the fact that SRS made the patch notes. They made it so that it fully converts to fire now.
Oh, cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did they do that?
Yeah, it's really cool. So now that when you
Oh.
convert to cold, you can't convert to cold anymore, so you do even less damage, and then also got rid of EE, so you do even less damage. It's literally Omega unplayable now. Thank you for that, GGG. Great move.
But is that not okay? So in that regard, doesn't that showcase maybe some holes within auras? Is that if we cannot fizz convert into cold, things just don't.
Yeah, hatred
Like,
is
they're
a
not-
little too strong.
Yeah, and like for the same point, if you have like you can't do fizz conversion into other elements either because it's all like flat fire damage, flat lightning damage. It's like really awkward there. Like you don't have a choice. It's like hold you convert and fire lightning you stack. And it's like it kind of locks you. Except for like unique modifiers.
I mean, they did change it so that I think Awakened added fire gives you +1 to physical gems now instead of +1 to fire gems. And SRS doesn't have the physical tag.
Someone's going through with a fine-tooth comb and finding little places that they can
I
nerf
swear
SRS
to
without
God.
most people noticing.
It used to have the physical tag. It used to have it. They removed it. They literally removed it, and now they changed the +1 that's supposed to work better because you're fully converting to not work anymore either.
There's someone with a
Hey.
quiet vendetta working in the shadows.
SRS is such a
Destroy
cool skill.
SRS.
They should bring it up.
It's an odd. They did say that they're going to be looking into like minion damage over time and
I mean,
all that.
this is like on a more serious note. This is one of the reasons why I really dislike the changes to LA Equilibrium and to a lesser degree LA Overload, because I don't disagree that things needed to change. They were too, play by numbers or however you want to phrase it, like thrown into everything. But that doesn't mean I have to like the execution. Like, I feel like it could have been done way better, and I would have preferred to wait a league, especially with how much other stuff is being thrown at us this league. Like, I guess the follow-on repercussion of that is they probably wouldn't have been able to buff Ignite, like fundamentally Ignite's scaling as much as they did if they hadn't touched things like LA Equilibrium or LA Overload in the way that they did.
I mean,
So
do
it
you
would have
like the
been-
Ignite changes there?
I
like that they got rid of the stupid Ignite more modifier and skills because that was just so. I like they got rid of
Really,
that.
it's kind of the opposite. I feel like they opened a can of worms with that.
Oh, go on.
Because it used to be that every skill in PoE was just better as Ignite because double dipping existed.
True.
And the way they locked it behind was because they like pointed at skills like these are the Ignite skills. And now by opening that up again, I feel like it limits developer space. Things like Arc, things like Stormbrand, things that deal more damage while they're like focused in single target. I feel like those might run into some problems, especially since like they did another weird thing where they changed Impending Doom to not be like more damage anymore, so it doesn't work with decay. So that like has a certain type of overlap. Like they kill. I've been trying to give Vixens the whole league. I couldn't get it. Sorry, I'm going on tangents. I couldn't get it,
fine.
and now they changed it, and I won't be able to get it because they fucking annihilated the build. Like it just doesn't work anymore. Not like nerfed. Not like Gladiator. Okay. Oh my god, all the gladiator Andes talking about how it's dead when it's literally going to be the most
What?
popular, strongest ascendancy in the
It's
entire
gonna be
game.
so strong.
Glad is
Bro,
very
I was
good,
reading
yes.
through the PoE forums. It was insane. Holy moly.
Gladiator is looking real good.
It's so good.
It's looking real good. It's not gonna be the same as before, but it's looking real good. It's the same thing with Raider. People thinking Raider is dead. I'm like, okay.
So crazy.
Oh my god.
I am really looking forward to making mixed armor evasion builds again, because I feel like that's not something I've done in a long time. And that's gonna
Did
be
I
like
still remember like
dirty strong.
armor evasion builds that also had like capped block and capped dodge and shit? Like people would play that with like incinerate. Like those builds were so bizarre. But
Old
very
Path of
very
Exile
good
is the
concept.
best.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so bizarre, but I think the defense stuff I like a lot because we talked about like Ignite a little bit, and for the most part, it's gonna end up. Well, I don't know if you guys want to like continue on that.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Like I don't really. Yeah, I don't think there's much to say about Ignite other than it's slightly better, but probably not better than what it was in 3.14. Is kind of how I see it.
Probably.
It also like it changes the dynamic as to which Ignite setups are going to be the ones people gravitate towards.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, things that are rapidly hitting will have an easy time using LE overload. So like Arma Brand fits this new Ignite paradigm really, really well, where you get previously maybe Armor Brand had some troubles with LE Equilibrium if you wanted to actually focus in and do a lot of DPS with Armor Brand, or as much as you could get out of it, because it would hit rapidly and ruin your LE Equilibrium. But that's not a thing anymore for most builds that are going to be using that, and it keeps up LE Overload great.
Fireball. It's like, are you really gonna spam the fireball until it pops?
Scourge arrow could be pretty
Very
good.
odd.
There's that one unique two-handed mace that causes the Nova when it eats a curse. I forget what it's called. Geoffrey's Baptism. That has never deal crits, so it was kind of awkward with Ignite before because you couldn't use LE Overload, but that's not a thing that you care about anymore very much. And the base damage scaling of Ignite being much higher is really, really good when your base damage is like 5k or whatever the ridiculous amount on the Nova was. So it might actually be a build now.
Yeah.
The Choir of Storms amulet, the hit portion of that has like 200% effectiveness, and it hits for like almost 4,000 as base.
Jesus.
Pretty good.
All right, go
I
on,
mean,
let's
that's
do
where you want the belt.
let's do some defensive stuff, and then we can wrap up.
I'm really looking forward to it. I really am looking forward to CI that doesn't feel like shit in terms of recovery. I'm looking forward to hybrid builds. I really like the focus on defenses. The more I think about it, the more I enjoy it. I really like encouraging the players to build characters and itemizing around defenses rather than picking up acrobatics and calling it a day. I'm a huge fan.
They're leaning a lot more into mitigating the hits and then recovering it rather than avoiding it altogether. And I think it's much better for PoE going in that direction.
A good direction for them to go. I doubt it'll be there from this patch, but that's a good direction for them to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first step, and I think they did great strides in how they like kind of refactored everything.
And giving players a wide variety of tools to deal with ailments is quite nice as well. That's one of the main complaints that I think we had defensively last league. And you can do it with reservations or gear or Pantheon powers or some ascendancies still.
Options.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, Raiz died. He was about to say something super pertinent.
Yes. He finally had a good point.
He said he could hear us still.
We'll never hear it. Aww.
Hey, let me try. I'll try swapping our gateway one time, and let's see if that fixes it. Right, one sec. Gateway swap. Oh, is he back? No, he's still. He's still frozen.
Perseverance is getting a nice buff out of the increased amount of armor and evasion.
Remind me what Perseverance does again.
Perseverance gives you it's got life, resist, armor evasion, base, belt, gives attack damage per 200 of the lowest
fortify,
armor evasion.
That one.
Fortify on stun, so it'll give fortify stacks on stun, I imagine. And you have onslaught while you have fortify. It's some pretty good shit, but it was never really there because it wasn't really worth it to build the armor evasion before.
Yeah, I remember it now.
But now you can get more of it, and it's more worth it to do potentially. So,
and
seems like it's gonna be a lot better.
as a bit of anti-advice, if you put abrasive catalysts on it, it gets worse because the ratio for damage per armor and evasion goes up.
What? What? That's hilarious. Oh my god. I can't believe it scales that number, the 200 lowest
It goes
armor
to
evasion.
240.
That shouldn't scale. That shouldn't scale. Oh god.
I'm curious, what do you guys think about the fortify changes when it comes to like casters and stuff like that?
Do we have a full overview of how it's exactly going to be now?
Yeah, the patch notes went through it in pretty good detail now. So basically, like, the amount of damage you do compared to the enemy's like ailment threshold, which they rebalanced a while back and are doing a little bit more work on this league, is how much stun you will get. So you'll need to, how much fortify stack you'll get. Basically, like, you can increase the max stacks instead of getting fortify effect now and things like that. But the net result is most casters who aren't doing any actual damage are only going to get like a couple percent maybe. So they're going to get like a far weaker fortifier if they bother to do that. It might still see a bit of use because it's still mitigation, but a lot weaker.
Ailment threshold on trash mobs is like, it's very easy to fully shock or fully chill or fully brittle or sap or whatever a trash mob. So it's not really that hard to get like 5%, 6-7% mitigation out of your fortify, even on just like a 4-link shield charge. So
you'll get one on bosses though.
Yeah, you'll get nothing. You'll get nothing versus bosses. But it's a defensive layer while clearing. I think in hardcore, if I have a build that doesn't have a ton of socket pressure, I may still use it now and again, but it's not going in everything anymore. No.
I think most people will ignore it. I don't think that's enough. Like, even if you get like 5 stacks, I don't think it's enough for people to actually want to invest sockets into it.
I am curious whether the stacks refresh on gaining more. Because then if I'm like shield charging through multiple packs, I would stack up to a decent mitigation level while clearing maps. And that might be relevant then. It might still make it good.
Sure.
Like I get 3 or 4 stacks in a pack, but after 30 seconds, 40 seconds of clearing a map, now I'm at 12, 15 stacks, and that starts to matter.
Yeah.
Could be. All right. Well, in that case, while we wait for Raiz to maybe come back or not come back, let's go around the table. One thing you're looking forward to and one thing you're cautious about for 3.16. Let's start with Octavian.
I'm going to be real clever and say the same thing for both. I'm looking forwards to the aspirational content like Wave 30 Simulacrum and crap like that. It's going to be great as a goal to push towards, and it's going to feel amazing if I manage to finish any of it. And I'm also I want like a word of caution that it's going to be extremely, extremely hard, and, don't expect to get it done, basically. Treat it as the sprinkles on your ice cream. It's the little bit of extra.
True.
Raiz, what is one thing you're looking forward to and one thing you're cautious about for next league?
Am I the last one to speak?
No.
I gotta think on this. Somebody else take over.
Go Nugiyen. I can go.
Okay, no, go Ziggy.
Go Ziggy?
Go Ziggy.
Okay. I'm really looking forward to us getting to the good stuff a lot faster. The reduced Atlas, the much less Watchstone gathering, getting to Maven passes quicker, no lab trials for Uber Lab. Like, holy shit, we're going to get to the good stuff so much faster now. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most. That's huge. What am I really cautious about? That one I'm less sure. I guess like I expect there to be quite an adjustment to building characters again. Like we had that a bit last league. And I think we're getting that again now. And I think maybe we haven't even fully adjusted to last league's changes. And then we've got these ones now as well. So a different shift to actually paying attention to core defenses. The new passive tree, I really love like a lot of these changes, but I think it's going to be quite an adjustment. So that's the thing I think is going to be maybe our builds are going to be a bit janky until we have quite a bit of time to fine tune them.
Yeah. Nugiyen?
So looking forward to all the new variety in builds and character creation from like all points, with the masteries and defenses. I will be cautious about hoping that the Atlas progression is going to feel too much different. because if your build sucks, when you hit red maps, you still have to kill red conquerors. So, and it's not looking as if we're getting that much more damage, right? Like that's like a ball up in the air, depending on how the mastery stuff is gonna like pan out. So I think stuff like that, people can still get stuck. So don't expect that everything's going to be perfect in your atlas. So I would
That's
say
so much better though. Getting stuck because you're not good enough versus just like taking a long time to get there and you're clearly good enough by the time you do get there.
Yeah, but it's more like it's the same issue with the re-rolling and then getting back to the same spot. And then if the gear is locked behind the red map content, you're still stuck. I think that's still a bit of an issue that we have with that's what I'm hoping they're addressing in 3.17 with new atlas. So I would say that's why I would, a bit of caution. We don't know yet. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Are you ready to go yet, Raiz?
Yeah, but I don't have anything good. I'm looking forward to all the things. The thing, I guess, I'm looking forward towards the thing that Ziggy's cautious about, which is like the defenses and the builds and the skill trees and all that stuff. That's really the main way that I play PoE nowadays.
I think it's
just
a good
fucking
thing,
around with
yeah.
different stuff. Yeah,
I think it's a good thing. That we're cautious about
exactly.
that.
But like, it's the struggle that I enjoy, because there's plenty of struggle that I can't say that I enjoy in Path of Exile. But when it comes to like build creation and even leagues like 3.15 where everything's like jungled up, then yeah. Oh, I guess the thing where now was disconnecting was that part of that was like if GGG would have told me that ailment mitigation is going to be completely fucked for 3.15, but then in 3.16 it's going to look the way that it's going to look now that we know it's going to will look, then yeah, I would have totally been fine with the 3.15 thing. So I'm looking forward to the new defenses. And what I'm most cautious about, fucking, I don't know, playing SRS, staying away from the PoE forums. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't play Immortal, Vol, Molten Show builds because it went from 3-second cooldown to 60. That sort of stuff,
I would say I'm probably most excited about the passive skill tree changes. Although I'm very worried about the trap masteries, because historically, for like the last probably 2 years, whenever there's been a trap change, Bex will be really excited to like leak me the trap change, and every time I see it, I'm like, oh, this is worse. So like there's been like a really long precedent of GGG be like, hey Tarke, we got you, and I'm like, no, this is worse, what are you doing? So I'm very like about that one. But in terms of like actual things that affect other people, I think I'm just like a bit. I think there's a lot of about Scourge that I really like, and I think even my reaction to 3.16, my YouTube video was like best league yet, just because there are so many things that we've been asking for that are cutting back on so much tedium. But until I actually play Scourge, I am a little bit worried about the whole delayed reward thing. I think that's something which could either be like really, really good or just like really frustrating for a lot of players. But I'm hoping that the new passive system will be enough to kind of keep the more casual players hooked in. And likewise, like the people who just re-roll and never see maps, that the passive stuff is enough to kind of keep them engaged in the league long term. And that's what I'm really hoping for.
Dude, so yeah. I know what I'm looking forward to the most. I totally forgot about this. Archmage support no longer has a 20% damage penalty.
There you go.
Oh,
in PvP. I love that.
Very nice.
Hell yeah. Mana builds are back, baby. Let's go.
All right. Well, with that, unless anyone else has anything they want to say, I reckon we should probably round up there.
But we haven't done the poll with chat to rate our hairdos.
Oh no, I'm balding. That's not. I don't want.
That's how we rounded out every podcast.
Was that the idea when I was gone? That's messed up.